Mic check 1 2 3. Good morning. Good morning to our attendees who are joining us here in the board hearing room. Good morning, city staff, executives, bureau representatives, members of the public, and parties of interest on our agenda items this morning. If you would like to offer public comment or commentary on any of our agenda items, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room. I will record your information for the record and call upon you when we reach your item. If you are a party of interest who you're not sure whether or not you will speak on an item, you don't have to fill one of these out right now. But if you do end up speaking on the item, I would ask that at that time you fill one out and you submit it to me. Thank you, and good morning as well to our attendees who are joining us on the virtual platform. I do have a couple of hands raised. I'm going to call upon you and ask you to unmute, identify yourself for the record and which item you'd like to speak on, and then I'll record your information and call upon you when we reach your item. Children's Voices Matter. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like public comment, please.
Thank you. I have you down for public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute and lower your hand. If there are any other members of the public joining us on the virtual platform and you wish to offer public comment or commentary on any of our agenda items, please raise your hand. Georgina McPhee, good morning.
Good morning, TJ. I'd like public comment and all agenda items, please.
Very well. I have you down for public comment and multiple agenda item commentary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina. I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand and put you back on mute. And Gigi, good morning.
Good morning, TJ. I'd like general and all items, please.
Very well. I have you down for general public comment and multiple agenda item commentary. Thank you, Gigi. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute and lower your hand. If anyone else is in the virtual room and would like to offer public comment or agenda item commentary, please raise your hand at this time. I'll ask you to unmute and if you could indicate which item you'd like to speak on. I will record your information for the record and then call upon you when we reach your item. The time is 9:48 and we will get started with the board meeting in approximately 12 minutes. Thank you. Good morning once again to our attendees who are joining us here in the board hearing room. If there are any members of the public who have not already done so, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room, indicate which item you'd like to speak on, and hand it to me. I'll record your information for the record and call upon you when we reach your item. And good morning as well to our city staff members, executives, real parties of interest, and members of the public. Good morning as well to our attendees joining us on the virtual platform. If there are any members of the public who wish to offer public comment or agenda item commentary and you've not already done so, I ask that you please raise your hand at this time so I can ask you to unmute, identify yourself for the record and which item you'd like to speak on, and then I will record your information and call upon you when we reach your item. It is 9:55 and we should get started with the board meeting in approximately 5 minutes. Thank you.
stills of the public under Department of Water Power. Peter Thomas, criminal, corruption, asshole there. Fuck Peter Thomas. I'm glad the judge threw you the book. I'm glad you lost your degrees as a lawman. Now you're just a punk-ass bitch. No ID to who you are other than a criminal from Los Angeles, Peter Thomas. Yeah, hear me loud and clear, Peter Thomas. City attorney, criminal.
No, that's not.
John, good morning, John. Good to see you. Michelle. Anyways, look at mommy dancing. She's looking cute today. Comb her hair.
President Kang, we are now in record mode and ready to begin the meeting.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. Mr. Knight, please take roll and establish quorum.
Good morning, President Kang, Vice President Chavez, President Pro Tem Grant, Commissioner Mitchell, and Commissioner Cardenas are present. We have a quorum. We are joined by City Attorney Representative Thomas Casella Vega. I'm TJ Knight with the Board of Public Works. President Kang, we have 5 public commenters, 4 multiple item commenters, and 2 single item commenters in the hearing room. We have 3 public commenters and 2 multiple agenda item commenters on the virtual platform, and we have no neighborhood council commentary submitted this morning.
Thank you very much. We will get started with general public comment, which is an opportunity for the public to address the board on public interest items, and will be provided up to 1 minute per person, up to a cumulative total of 10 minutes for the general public comment segment of each regular meeting. Testimony shall be limited in content to subject matters which are within the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. The board may not take any action on any matters discussed during the public comment period. We will begin with in-person speakers. First up, we have Michael Ackerman.
Please approach the podium, and you have 60 seconds to offer your commentary.
Good morning. The reason I don't yell and scream here is that I expect you've become jaded to histrionics. What I didn't expect is that you've become jaded to common sense. I'm not aligned with any of the other people you often see here, but from what I can tell, they raise sound points regarding the issuance of permits. This is just another pebble on the mountain of evidence that there is extreme public misconduct. Perhaps you've spoken to a lawyer who's told you that everything is fine. This is not even close to fulfilling your responsibility, especially given the fact that public lawyers are engaging in the misconduct. What you should have done is taken the issue to the next highest level and then to the level above that, but you didn't. What each of you should do now is take the issue to the highest level. Make public statements asking the governor to do a military level investigation of public misconduct.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Audit Alay.
Thank you. Good morning, and that was really good advice. I'm just here to say continuously, and it's true, like but the Bureau of Street Services and Scientology is putting the city at risk because they actually changed. You have a very set, and this city attorney's office said that, that they cannot prevent pedestrians, but they did. They changed it, even though that's what the law is. They changed it, and they said they made it for the Shrine the Shrine event to keep Laura away from seeing her father. They made it where only local people can come, and then had outside entities, Scientology, actually checking addresses and IDs to see whether or not they were local or not. That is putting the city at huge risk. And Michael is right. I mean, it should go above, because whatever, it's going to end up in lawsuits. They can't do that. Now, if you got, we need you to please stop doing any permits until this is all resolved. None. And Laura's she's on her way up, so if she wants to talk, but maybe take her out of order.
Thank you very much. Do we have Laura FM? Next speaker, do we have Henry Marini?
Good morning. There's some new faces here today. My name is Henry. I help run a website called Audit the Government. I recently submitted a misconduct profile on Director of Street Services called Keith Mose. You can check it out. I'll have cards if you want to talk to me afterwards and the information, but it's available for public records as well. Keith Mose has been acting on behalf of a religious organization, granting favoritism by issuing unlawful special events permits, closing down a public street known as L. Ron Hubbard Way over at the intersection of Sunset and Fountain Avenue at the blue building known as the Scientology campus. It's been going on for years. And in fact, Keith actually has direct family relatives that received religious services from Scientology and is doing this as a favor. And it's a clear violation of what we know as the First Amendment, where you have an entanglement with a government agency, with the religious organization. It's been going on for years, and unfortunately, the city is going to get sued over this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Jason Downs. Got it. Agenda item 8 and 9. This is, and then we have Singh, LAPD.
Special study on feasibility established for ADA. What does it ensure that these new physical improvements of mobile accessibility are a true or a lie made by our local government, by our jackass city attorney, like the other jackass, Peter Thomas, for the record? Bunch of lying thieves. Well, here it is. Let's go above that, as you heard the speaker talk about lying piece of shits, criminal fucking corruption in Los Angeles. Let's go above that. Let's say fuck the permits to Scientology. Let's say go to hell, Scientology. Why should they override on the backs of the hardworking motherfuckers in here who pay taxes and can't get permits? And by the way, I want accessibility for every motherfucker in the city of Los Angeles. Fuck the mayor, fuck the city of Los Angeles, and fuck your mobility
That's 60
access,
seconds.
assholes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's transition to our virtual platform.
Thank you, President King. We'll start with Children's Voices Matter, followed by Georgina McPhee.
Greetings, everyone. On or about November 13, 2025, Aaron Mathis, 57-year-old Scientologist OT8, was found guilty of SA of a child less than 12 years old, with more than 30 incidents stretching over a year. I guess children are not adults in small bodies. If permits were given to men hurting children in Scientology, Public Works would give out a lot of permits. Thank you. I appreciate what you do. I yield back my time.
And we'll move next to Georgina McPhee, followed by Gigi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if any other entity within the city was issued a permit that they violated and then issued another permit that they violated and then multiply that by 100 times, you would eventually stop giving them permits, or you would at least admonish them in some way via fines or, you know, changing the rights of their permits for future permits. You have yet to do that for Scientology. They violate the terms of the permits continuously. There hasn't been a permit that they haven't violated some aspect of, and yet you keep issuing them permits. Why is that? Why are they being given preferential treatment despite their continuous abuses and violations? They are not allowed to stop private citizens from walking down a sidewalk, forcing them to identify themselves. They're not the SS. They're not allowed to accost individual citizens walking on a public sidewalk. It needs to be addressed.
That's
Thank you.
60 seconds. And we'll move next to Gigi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so first, Keith Mose, however you say his name, he needs to be replaced. Also, what Georgina was talking about, like, think of all the people or all the entities that get in trouble when they violate a term of a contract or a permit. You know, they get in trouble. But when Scientology get in trouble, they never get in trouble and they violate every single permit that you issue to them. There's video proof, there's witnesses that keep telling you what we see. And you don't do anything about any of the violations. You just keep giving them permit after permit after permit. You know, like, why are these other people, other entities getting in trouble? You know, like, Scientology should be getting in trouble. You should be treating everything as equal. Like, they don't get special, they get special privileges, but why do they get them? They're not special. Like, y'all, I yield my time.
Thank you. And President King, that concludes public commentary this morning.
Thank you very much. With that, we will close the general public comment portion of today's meeting and move forward with multiple agenda item public comment. The board will provide an opportunity for members of the public wishing to speak on more than one agenda item during multiple agenda item comment period for up to a minute per item, up to a total of 3 minutes per meeting. This is the only time to speak on more than one agenda item, and please identify the items that you will speak on when you are called. We will start with in-person speakers. First up, we have Audit Alay.
Good morning again. I was very happy to see Granicus on the agenda item. To me, it feels like that's really good progress. I hope that will include a better accounting for what's going on during public comment. Like I said, I understand there's a balance. You don't have to put every word said or everything, but it would be nice to have a record of what, not just our concerns. I mean, although we've been coming here, was it June or July will be 2 years, long before any of you were even on this board. I think the only one who was here that long was TJ. He's been there since the beginning. But so I hope we make progress, because like 20 years from now, when they're looking at what happened in public, public works, there's no accounting that for 2 years people came talking about the egregious violations of one entity, and yet how fast or slow things got resolved. It's a historical record. And I will, acknowledge, because I agree, I do appreciate every one of you, and I appreciate this commission. This is nothing personal. We just want the city to do better. And I do believe that there has been effort and some movement. They used to have endless shutdowns, and they don't anymore. And I appreciate that. But there's still the fact that they are changing your own rules without anything in writing or any permission to do so. And so we're asking for continued efforts. And so I also want to touch on the base of neighborhood councils, that they are not able to get enough, because what they're doing now is, and I think you see the pattern, I'm really into patterns, that they apply for everything at the last minute. And then, and they scramble without everything being done, and then they are granted. And of course, they violate every single one, including important things like fire lanes. Laura's dad's in there. She doesn't want her dad being injured because the city's not enforcing a fire lane. Okay, and I don't want that either. We care about all the people inside those buildings. But but neighborhood councils may, especially at the Shrine, that event really affected the entire community, because they were shutting down the streets even though there was a game at USC, and students coming and going. So the neighborhood council may have really liked to have chimed in, but they were not notified. And if they were, I would love, I would like to see that they were, but, and I have I don't see any evidence that the neighborhood was notified. And I don't even know how they got a shutdown of the streets, because you have to have I was told, like a 51% interest. Like there has to be the neighbors have to agree to it. And I don't see any proof of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Henry Marini.
Good morning. I'll start with item number 3. So I do support and move forward with this. And I want to add a point of clarification that a lot of people don't know about the Granicus system. It is the system of record for every city agency. That includes neighborhood councils. The problem is that neighborhood councils for the entirety of their existence have not been included in the Granicus system of record. In fact, the ways that neighborhood councils are forced to publish their meetings are to pay out of their own budget to host their own websites and maintain an active calendar to publish those events. Whereas every other city agency, which the neighborhood council, of course, is by charter officially a city agency, is not being pushed with the same burden. And their measly $30,000 a year that neighborhood councils each get, the website hosting alone is almost $1,000 per year in addition to some of the other functions. And yet this is already a service, a platform that the city provides for every city agency. And it goes beyond that. The Zoom platform that we're using right now is also entirely free. In fact, I have another investigation published on my website, auditthegovernment.org, where I explain through various CPRAs that the city is in fact denying neighborhood councils the access and the right to use the very same Zoom platform free of service to host their meetings, to host recordings, and that money has to come out of the neighborhood council's budget. That budget is we the people's budget. That money is supposed to be for neighborhood grants, for people that want to do community beautifications, that want to provide grants to after-school programs, a wide variety of other things that the city clearly does not do for its constituents. And so that is the big issue with item number 3 on this agenda. The other issue is, speaking on the minutes, they're supposed to keep a tally of who supports or denies an item. They don't have to keep a verbatim comment of what is said on each of those items, but they're supposed to keep a tally if you're for an item or if you're against it, because somebody at some point will go and make a public request to see who was supported particular items and who didn't. Besides the video record that may be altered, the Granicus system cannot be altered. And so there's been times, in fact, through the David Salzberg case, where there was documented proof of the city doctoring literal video evidence from the city council and other committees that constituted a legitimate Brown Act violation. And so the city has a pattern or practice of doing this, but they cannot do so with the Granicus system. Each of those records is an immutable record that nobody on the board, the committees, or the councils can actually change. And so this is a big issue. And again, I'll be at the back if you want my business card to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Singh LAPD.
Yo, yo, yo. The only white motherfucker who speaks the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. So yeah, look at item number 3. You heard that discussion? Very elegant, very truthful, very factual, except what the fuck's going on here, man? Why aren't you people doing your fucking job? Maybe the only person here who knows their job is John Grant, but as far as I know, some of you don't know shit. Like on item 12, for example. What the fuck is this shit about? Small sidewalks. Small sidewalks, really? We got thousands, miles of fucking sidewalks in which this fucked up city for the Olympics does not have them ready, accessible, right? Let me give you a scenario. Right here on Spring and First at the LA Times. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Fix the fucking sidewalk. Fix the goddamn curb cut. Fix the ramp. What's so fucking hard about it? You're endangering the public. That's the problem. Look at item number, is it 12? Who fucking cares about bicycle repairs at a time like this? Who the fuck is stupid enough to get your 2 fat children on a bike and ride in the streets of Los Angeles and get hit by a car? We are the hit and run capital of the motherfucking world, and you want me to take my 2 fat girls out on the street on a bike so they can get killed? Not gonna happen. You want me to take my crippled ass on a bike on that fucking unsafe sidewalk and streets while some jackass flies by on a what? Electric bike. Some dickhead rides by like Marquise Dawson on a scooter. Hell no. Sidewalks were meant for pedestrian access, not for this shenanigan of bullshit that you already hear me talking about. Matter of fact, let me read into the record the full account. 25-0600S77. Adopt the budget recommendation for the Department on Disability Report relative to a special study on the feasibility of establishing a fee for service program to support Americans with Disability Act, ADA, requirements to ensure that the physical improvements, mobile accessibility, and electronic services are reimbursed by other cities and departments, including properties and departments. So there it is, asshole taxpayers. You heard it from the asshole's mouth. When are you going to repair? When are you going to fix the infrastructure that only one goddamn president in this world can do? Donald J. Trump, thank you for the ice. Keep sending ice. I love ice.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last in-person speaker for multiple item is Laura FM.
Hi, good morning, board. I was late 30 minutes because I was waiting for a bus that didn't arrive until 30 minutes ago. But I made it, I'm here. I'm glad to see that you guys put on number 3, the mayor has approved and authorized the Board of Public Works to execute the updated First Amendment. You see why this is so important for people like me. For you guys listening, I was born and raised in the cult of Scientology, so we're here literally trying to get access to my father, where they closed down all the streets around the Shrine Auditorium, closed down the sidewalks, didn't have a permit for it, but this literally started only 3 years ago, the moment I was filming to see my dad, and he happened to be pushing a dish cart while I was screaming his name because the police and Public Works lied about a permit that they didn't have. I could have been there walking with my father telling him it is okay for him to leave. But Scientology doesn't do that. And Public Works, you're giving them the permits to close down these fake sidewalks and streets for no reason. This was during a game at LACC. During this, they still gave them, because Scientology paid $42,000 just for 5 hours of blocking down the Shrine Auditorium so that people like myself can't openly talk to my parents and tell them it's okay to leave. So stop giving Scientology permits. That's one thing, because that's all they use them for, is recruiting and getting people from out of the country in there locked up, where they lock up their passports, their IDs. They don't give them permission, but then say, oh, you can be here on an R1 visa. The religion will keep you here, in fact. And then they get trapped here and they're stuck in a cult. And they can't get out, they can't do anything. Because Public Works, this department, has allowed for several years for them to take over the Christmas parade money. They spend all the money that is opening up Winter Wonderland, Hollywood Parade, all run by Scientology, Author Services, Galaxy Press, all organizations that I was born and raised in. $47 a week. Every single member in that cult is getting less than $47 a week. They do not believe in mental health care. They cannot go to Cedars-Sinai if they have a breakdown or a mental situation or a health situation. They have to handle it through Scientology abusive auditing, which is fake. There's nothing about it that works. It's a dangerous cult, and Public Works keeps giving them all sorts of permits that they don't use for anything to help the city. They use up their tax money, don't support it. They call the fire department, call the LAPD on protesters exposing it. Stop giving them these permits. The last thing is, everybody, can you please request the board to put up revocable permit for L. Ron Hubbard Way? It needs to be changed back to North Barrendo Street, not a cult member's fucking name.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will transition to our virtual comments.
Thank you, President Kang. And we'll start with Georgina McPhee, followed by Gigi. Please indicate which item you're speaking on, and you have 3 minutes to offer your commentary.
I'm going to first speak on the minutes and then move on to agenda items. For the minutes, the fact that these complaints are not reflected in the minutes is a problem. Each week we repeat ourselves with the same complaints, with new complaints over and over again. None of them are addressed, none of them are reflected in the minutes. It needs to be stopped, it needs to be updated. Moving on to agenda item number 3, the fact that you are renewing your contract with Granicus is an excellent time for you to address these changes. I hope it's a sign that you've been listening and that you realize there needs to be changes done in the minutes as pertaining to people's comments. Granicus gives you the opportunity to do that. It is built into their system. It's the same system that New York uses, Sacramento uses, most of the rest of the country uses, and they use those attributes, the opportunity to address the public comments by having at least a hyperlink taking them to where that person spoke, what they said, and it's a way for you to include our comments in the minutes. And the fact that your YouTube channel doesn't have dates and titles per sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm watching people just kind of like zoned out on the screen, not paying attention, not hearing a word we say. It gets really frustrating when you all look so bored. Is Candy Crush not exciting enough for you today that you can't even bother to look up or pay attention or be present in these meetings? Thank you. I yield back my time.
And we'll move next to Gigi. Gigi, please indicate which item you're speaking on, and you have 3 minutes to offer your multiple agenda item commentary.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the minutes. Henry, Audit LA, Laura, Georgina, they said some really amazing stuff that's not gonna be recorded in the minutes. Nothing is ever recorded in the minutes except for public comment was received. Like, there should be something. You don't have to go into detail. You could just put something basic, but you don't put anything except that it was received. Like, I've been speaking for over a year, and I have never seen anything reflected in the minutes. Why is there still nothing reflected? Like, it's just received. And then what happens once it's received? What do you guys do with it? You know, and as Georgina was saying, a lot of times it looks like people are zoned out and not listening. And that's really disrespectful to people that are calling in. You know, like, we aren't getting paid to do this. And sometimes we sit around waiting like an hour before we can even speak for like a minute. So please pay attention. And I'm going to just yield my time. Thank you.
President Kang, that concludes multiple agenda item commentary.
Thank you very much. With that, we will close the multiple item public comment portion of today's meeting and move forward with the approval of minutes for Wednesday, January 7, 2026. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments? Seeing no other discussion, I'll move to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by President Pro Tem Grant.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of minutes, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and this item is approved unanimous.
Thank you very much. We will now proceed to agenda item number 1 to open the bids for Stratton Park North Stormwater Capture Project in Council District 2.
Thank you, President Kang, and I am joined this morning by Board Secretariat Staff Member Matthew Castellanos as we open bids for item number 1. Thank you. And the first bid is from Legion Contractors Incorporated. Legion Contractors Incorporated's total bid amount is $29,966,000, $29,966,000. The second bid this morning for item 1 is from Ford EC Incorporated. Ford EC Incorporated's total bid amount is $27,492,300, $27,492,300. 492-300. That's all right. There's a little bit of a delay because of the bid being submitted out of order. So we're just taking a minute to rearrange it. Thanks, Matt. The third bid is from Nationwide Contracting Services Incorporated, DBA. The third bid this morning is from Nationwide Contracting Services Incorporated, DBA Nationwide General Construction Services. Nationwide Contracting Services Incorporated, DBA Nationwide General Construction Services. Their total bid amount is $32,480,302. $32,480,302. The next bid is from Mike Bubalo Construction Company Incorporated. Mike Bubalo Construction Company Incorporated's total bid amount is $34,189,000. $34,189,000. The next bid is from Reyes Construction Incorporated. Reyes Construction Incorporated's total bid amount is $23,238,900. $23,238,900.
Give you the environmental construction. And then here's the bid amount.
The next bid is from Environmental Construction Incorporated. Environmental Construction Incorporated's total bid amount
It's in the front.
is $25,893,002. $25,893,002.
This is the final one.
The last bid for item 1 is from Blois Construction Incorporated. Blois Construction LLC. Blois Construction LLC's total bid amount is $31,349,636. $31,349,636. And that concludes bid opening item number 1.
Thank you very much. I'll move to receive these bids for item number 1. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on the bid opening approval for item 1, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 1 is received, open, and declared forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving on to items 2 and 3, which are on consent. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll move to approve items 2 and 3, which are on consent. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cardenas.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of items 2 and 3, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and items 2 and 3 are approved forthwith.
Thank you very much. Next item number 4 for Council District 7 is TOS number 106.
Greetings, Board President, Commissioners. My name is Andrew S. Senior Civil Engineer in the Bureau of Engineering Bridge Improvement Division. The purpose of this board report is to request the authority to issue task order solicitation number 106 to Kimley Horn and Associates from the Bridge Civil Engineering Pre-Qualified On-Call Consultants List for the Telfair Avenue Multimodal Bridge over the Pacoima Wash project. The scope of the project is to construct a new multimodal pedestrian bridge along Telfair Avenue over the Pacoima Wash. The new bridge will provide a critical connection to El Dorado Park from Telfair Avenue for pedestrians and cyclists, and it is part of the overall Pacoima Wash vision plan. The project is located in Council District Number 7. The services to be provided by Kimley Horn are to finalize the 100% plan, specification, and estimate package for the project. Kimley Horn and their sub-consultant team demonstrated critical knowledge and expertise in the delivery of the project as shown in their proposal. The total cost of the contract will be $870,472.52, which includes contingency. The project is funded by the Community Project Funded Congressional Directed Spending, CPF CDS program, which is a Caltrans federal discretionary grant. The CPF CDS funds will reimburse approximately 88.53% of project expenditures. The project will be front-funded by transportation grant funds, which were appropriated to the project via Council File number 22-1222. Local match for the remaining portion of the project expenditures will be funded through CTIP 59C funds. So the Bridge Improvement Division anticipates completing this 100% PS&E package and obtaining all necessary regulatory permits and approvals by early 2027. We anticipate project commencing construction in summer of 2027 with an approximately 1-year duration, so we can expect completion of construction in summer 2028. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a first and a second?
So move.
First by President Pro Tem Grant, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 4, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 4 is adopted, subject to conditions forthwith.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5 in Council District 3, construction budget and revised construction orders and change orders, MNR Construction, Inc.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Christian Guerrero with the Bureau of Engineering Wastewater Conveyance Construction Division. And I'm here to request approval for a construction budget for the Sewer 7 Oso Avenue 5000 project. This is to MNR Construction Incorporated for a total budget of $226,000, including contingency, and to authorize the city engineer to issue construction orders and change orders up to that amount. I'll give you a little background on this project. LE Sanitation issued an urgent expedite request back on June 30th of 2025. And this was due to discovering a missing liner in the existing sewer pipe from 55 feet to 61 feet and from 121 feet to 127 feet downstream of the upstream maintenance hole. There's also a sag that was discovered at approximately 71 feet to 104 feet downstream of the upstream maintenance hole, and it was also discovered that the upstream maintenance hole has a broken channel base. The project is located on Oso Avenue, and this is between Khalifa Street and Tiara Street, and shown on Figure 1 of the board report. And the existing sewer pipe is an 8-inch vitrified clay pipe, 282 feet long and 7 feet deep, and it was constructed back in 1956. The scope of work then consists of removing and replacing the entire sewer reach with a brand new 8-inch vitrified clay pipe, restoring 4 house connections, and removing and replacing the upstream maintenance hole concrete channel base. The schedule of work and prices was then estimated with applicable fixed price and bid items and calculated quantities. And Matthew & Stewart was the lowest bidder at $85,433, followed by Tomovich & Associates at $93,354, and then followed by MNR at $117,174. Matthew & Stewart Company was unavailable due to their prior request to be placed inactive in the sewers contract, and Tomovich & Associates was also unavailable due to not being able to accommodate the work in the required time frame. Therefore, MNR was issued the original construction order, And then during construction activities, the contractor encountered at approximately 55 linear feet of concrete encasement surrounding the sewer pipe. This needed to be removed and replaced as shown in figure 2 of the board report. Additionally, the contractor did encounter undocumented utility interferences, which required the contractor to dig by hand for an approximate length of 70 feet. This is shown on figure 3 of the report as well. These impacts triggered the additional bid item for removal and replacement of the concrete encasement surrounding the sewer pipe, and a work by hand factor to the bid items that were impacted by the utility interferences, and caused a delay in the construction work, which required additional traffic control days to be added to the project than originally estimated. So to address these additional costs without delay, the construction and to minimize impact to the community, the Bureau of Engineering requested an emergency authorization for the budget increase from the Commissioner on November 4th, 2025. This was for a total estimated at the time of $200,000. The total then needed to be revised after review of the delay impacts to a new total of $226,000. The project has since been completed, and this was back on October 6th of 2025. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, starting with Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you for your report. Can you give me the number that you're requesting again?
Yes, the number we're requesting is $226,000.
226?
226.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a first and a second?
So move.
First by President Pro Tem Grant, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 5, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes. Item 5 is adopted, subject to conditions forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, MOA, Bureau of Sanitation, and the Department of Water and Power.
Good morning, President and Board. My name is Quinn Ho, and I'm a civil engineer at Bureau of Sanitation. I'm here to present this agenda item is to ask for your approval on the new memorandum of agreement between LA Sanitation and LADWP to share the cost of the planning work that we did for the Pure Water Los Angeles program from May 2019 through July 2024. So the Pure Water Los Angeles program was initiated back in 2019, and it has a goal of maximizing the recycling of Hyperion effluent to the benefit of the city portable water supply. The Pure Water Los Angeles program is a joint partnership between LA Sanitation and Environment and LADWP, where LA San focuses on the treatment of the recycled water at Hyperion, and LADWP focuses on the distribution of the recycled water to various end use of the recycled water and the regional coordination. So the scope of work of this MOA cover our initial planning works for Pure Water Los Angeles program over the period of May 2019 through July 2024. Over this period, we, along with our consultant team, performed many technical feasibility studies for Hyperion. We developed the Hyperion program implementation plan. It's a roadmap for to implement Pure Water Los Angeles at Hyperion. We conduct public outreach and engagement, and we also establish an initial program management structure for the program. All these activities were closely coordinated with LADWP, and we presented the Hyperion program implementation plan along with LADWP master plan for the program to a joint session of your board and LADWP Board of Commissioners in March of 2025. Both LADWP and LA San recognize that the program planning effort at Hyperion served two purposes: a water supply benefit because of recycled water, but it's also an environmental benefit because of future Hyperion discharge to Santa Monica Bay. Because of these dual benefits, and because of the joint responsibility for the development and the implementation of the program, both departments have agreed to a 50-50 split of our planning costs over the period. The total cost under this work is 14 million, which the amount that we pay for the consultant to perform the work. And LADWP has agreed to pay their share of 7 million, and they are in the process of going through their board. Upon approval of your board, this MOA will go to the mayor office for their review and approval. Once we have obtained that, we will execute the MOA with LADWP and shortly thereafter send them an invoice of $7 million. Meanwhile, our work on the program and the coordination with LADWP continue. We are discussing with LADWP on cost sharing the future work as well. This has concluded my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you for your report. Two things. This is kind of after the fact. Did anybody think about doing this at the time we were doing this work together?
Definitely. So this was covering the period starting in May 2019. So at that time, it's an inception of the program. So at that time, we haven't had developed a clear scope of work. So as the program developed and evolving, we start working and develop more a defined scope of work. So therefore, we were able to determine the scope of work for this MOA for the cost sharing.
Okay.
And also, sorry, one more is that for LADWP, they usually do the reimbursement and they don't really do the front funding.
So in other words, the amount we're talking about was advanced by LADWP and we're just now paying our fair share?
Yes, so this is the fully reimbursement for the past work.
Okay, and that both the implementation plan and the master plan were presented last March, correct?
Yes.
And the work was done through July 2024?
Yes, it go through the July 2024 period.
And is DWP also engaging in similar process, authorizing the MOA to cover the same period?
Oh, yes, definitely. This MOA will be going through the LADWP board, and they're scheduled to go in early April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice President Chavez.
Thank you. Certainly, it was an unusual delay, as Commissioner Mitchell mentioned, but I know that there were some significant lessons learned, I'm sure, during this process. Can you share with us, moving forward, what elements or sort of what will be the different approach in going forward with the next MOA agreement, and kind of what do you expect the successor MOA would cover?
Yes, so currently we are working on a planning MOA that would cover August 2024 onward. And for this one, we are planning to do a 5 years. And since we have a definite scope of work moving forward, we are including those scope of work into this upcoming MOA. And then the other lesson learned is that our plan is to do this MOA earlier and starting the conversation with our partner at LADWP for coordination of this MOA earlier.
Okay, so have negotiations begun with DWP?
We haven't done the negotiation. We are doing a draft right now.
Okay. I think that one thing I've noticed is, and the way it was explained to me, is that you didn't have a complete scope of work at the beginning, and that's why sort of it morphed into what it is today. If it would be easier, I would recommend at least establishing a master agreement framework that everyone can agree on, and then that can be modified as needed as you go along. But that way you're not dealing with such a significant delay. We're already 18 months into the current prospective new MOA agreement, so I would suggest that the priority should be getting something in place as soon as possible. That would be my direction, you know, that I would like us as a board to give to staff as they are discussing this with LADWP. The second thing is I noticed that the previous MOA explicitly excludes staff labor costs. And I understand why, I can understand why each agency is doing that, but I'm just curious, are we tracking that at least for our own internal information, just so we understand the true cost, the true investment that we're making? Is that being tracked?
Yes, we are tracking as internal staff labor costs.
Okay, and then also too, with regards to progress reports, I think it would be really, I mean, we are coming up on a year from when this board, both boards met jointly to approve the master plan back in March of 25. I think it would be great to work, I would beseech my fellow board members if we can make an attempt to do another joint meeting and get a progress report coming up on the year anniversary of that meeting, and just so we can have a little bit better understanding for both boards, you know, where we are. Have we, you know, are we on track to meet the major milestones? Are we still agreeing on the same, you know, scope? I know that you're telling us that, but I would like to hear it. And I think the public would appreciate that as well. So I would love to work on shepherding that and getting some dates on calendars. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardenas.
Yes, thank you. And just for the public's knowledge, this is a very long-term project. Can you give us, and for the members of the public that are listening, can you give us kind of a time frame of how many years we got and what the phases are for this project and the ultimate goal of this project?
Yeah, so this Pure Water Los Angeles program, it's a span between 30 to 40 years. Our ultimate goal is to basically maximizing recycled water for the city of Los Angeles and deliver those recycled water. In speaking from the LA sanitation side for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, our plan for Hyperion, the construction, which outlined in the program implementation plan as well, is that we have 3 definite construction phases, and these 3 phases actually span within 30 years. So the first phase, what we call the foundational infrastructure, recycle water foundational infrastructure projects, that phase we are targeting to deliver in 2036. So that gives you a time frame of the program.
And the ultimate goal is to have zero discharge into the ocean, correct? Do 100% recycling on site at Hyperion, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a first and a second for the MOA? First by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by Vice President Chavez.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 6, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 6 is adopted and will be referred to the mayor forthwith.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7 for OPNG, Brea Canyon Oil Company Abandonment Plan and Termination of Franchise Agreement, Ordinance number 184952.
Good morning, Honorable Commissioners and City Attorney Representative. Thank you for your time. I'm Erica Blyther, the city's Petroleum Administrator, and I'm providing some background and context for this item. Brea Canyon has worked diligently with the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the Bureau of Engineering to create this abandonment plan and ensure that the work occurs as the city deems appropriate. We've had numerous meetings and communication with Brea Cannon throughout this process. In July of 2024, Brea Cannon opened an account for an e-permit through the city's Bureau of Engineering website to request an in-person appointment. In September of 2024, we requested that Brea Cannon submit an abandonment plan. In April of 2025, Brea Cannon submitted that abandonment plan. We had some back and forth on a few of the issues and had some time to resolve the issues. And in April 24th, we had a meeting with Brea Cannon to discuss the abandonment process and the permit application process. The abandonment procedure will include purging the lines of any remaining contaminants, safe disconnection from an operating pipeline facility, and sealing the abandoned facilities left in place to minimize any safety and environmental hazards. And so we reviewed this package and sent it to Council District 15's Wilmington and City Hall offices. And we held a meeting again in July with Brea Cannon to go through additional processes with the Bureau of Engineering. And we had a follow-up meeting with Council District 15 in September, and they did not have any concerns with this plan moving forward. In general, this is a plan where Brea Cannon has worked diligently to provide that. And our compliance section has worked closely with the City Attorney's Office to prepare the CEQA document, and the City Attorney's Office is in agreement with the notice of exemption. So you have before you the board report, attachment 1, which is the abandonment plan that includes the plan itself, the franchise agreement, engineering drawings, maps, and photos of the locations to be abandoned. There's also the franchise agreement itself, again, is attachment 2, and attachment 3 is a CEQA notice of exemption. And in general, we are in concurrence with this abandonment plan and believe that Brea Cannon has actually begun work already and received some inspections with the city's Bureau of Contract Administration, and they are gathering records. So the final steps will be for this to come back to the board and review the documentation that was done and receive the financial instrument transferring the ownership of those pipelines since they're left in the ground. We know there have been concerns in the past about pipelines left in the ground and not knowing the locations. So we need to get those locations so they can be uploaded to the Navigate LA system. And then we also want to have this financial instrument transferring the ownership to the City of Los Angeles. So one minor change to this board report is to move recommendation 4 of the automatic termination and moving that to after we've received this final item. So move it after item 6 of the final report. But that's just to maintain a relationship in case Brea Cannon needs any type of permits that they need with the city, as well as any future things. And after that point, that's when we would terminate the franchise immediately. But this is the board reviewing the plan and granting its permission for this work to occur. And today, I believe that there is a representative from Brea Cannon. I believe Tim Birch is here. And my staff, John Childs, the senior management analyst over the franchise section, as well as Daniel Liu, the senior environmental engineer of the compliance section, and Shilpa Gupta, the environmental supervisor of the compliance section, are both here, and we're available for any comments or questions. And all of this, it's a team effort, but we're happy to work with anyone who wants to properly follow the city's procedures to abandon their franchise agreement.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments related to this item? Just double checking, it seems like Brea has been in communication with you and your team related to next steps. Any red flags that we should be aware of, or are they pretty much on track?
They have received a notice of violation in the past, but they've paid their fine properly, and that was for not maintaining insurance. And understandably, if they don't want to maintain their insurance, then they should leave the city, and that's what they're working to do right now. So they did pay their fine on time, but they've been in communication with us, and they've been working hand in hand as we work through the CEQA, as we're working through the abandonment plans, and we've had numerous meetings to draw questions to what's happening in the plan, making sure we understand it and are in agreement with it.
All right, thank you very much. Vice President Chavez.
Yes, a couple questions. Regarding the construction, is there an updated timeline? Is there a revised timeline on it, or has it been completed? Because the report mentioned the fall 25 construction.
I believe that it's pretty much been completed, and you can verify. Yeah, okay, so the Brea Cannon representatives are nodding their head. It's been completed. So I think we're just waiting the final documentation for that.
Okay, and is there any, I know not all of these locations are within the city boundaries, but for the ones that are, what are the notification requirements or not requirements, what notification will there be to adjacent residents about the work, if any?
Sure. So permits were applied for during the Bureau of Engineering's process. And so for those, there's like usually a 7-day notification to areas affected. In some of the areas, there were driveways that had to be reconstructed. So there were notices given to residents as there was construction happening in those.
Okay. And then once the ownership transfers back to us, what are the long-term just maintenance requirements that or obligations that we're taking on for these kinds of pipelines? What's the policy of your office on that?
Right. So this is a pipeline that contained methane. And so it's not quite the same issues of some of the pipelines where there was crude oil, where there could be leaks that happen over time. But we want to maintain knowledge of the location of where these pipelines are. So if there are any future projects, we know it's there. If there's any infrastructure projects coming in, it would be maintaining awareness and uploading that to Navigate LA so anyone could have access to that as they're doing work. As far as this did not fall under the Office of State Fire Marshal for their procedures due to the fact that the type of pipeline it was, the size, as well as the contents. But in the future, some of the other ones would follow under the procedures for Office of State Fire Marshal. So it'll depend on a case-by-case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where, we might have a future city project. We have our own projects that sometimes require uncovering of whatever's there, or even private development projects. So I'm just curious, if we have a policy of how we kind of manage that in terms of, I would imagine this is going to be an ongoing thing, not just for the ones that people are coming to. They're the good actors who come to us and say we want to do this, but there's still a lot, as we've learned. There's still a lot of pipelines that we don't necessarily know about. I think that all of this information, what we are learning during this process should help inform how we're dealing with, just the aging pipeline infrastructure that we have in the city. So would appreciate your ongoing monitoring of that and recommendations as they come up.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cardenas?
Yes, thank you. And you mentioned BCA did the inspections. Was there any issues that BCA had when they went ahead and inspected the project to make sure it was completed to the city's satisfaction?
So we have not heard of any concerns from BCA. We're going to have that as part of the follow-up, and the final report that comes forward is just saying when this inspection occurred, let's include the inspection report, address any concerns, et cetera. So that's forthcoming. But so far, we have not heard of any concerns. None have been raised to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a first and a second?
So moved.
First by Commissioner Cardenas, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 7, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes. Item 7 is adopted and will move forward forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8 for non-compliance of City of LA franchise ordinance and a monetary penalty. We will take public comment after the presentation.
Okay, thank you. And this item did come before the board on December 8th. There was a mistake, and so we are bringing this back to the board so that the franchisee has due process and has the ability to make any comments and state their case. Again, I'm Erica Blyther, the city's petroleum administrator, and I wanted to draw your attention to the items, the franchise agreement, and what's required for an abandonment process. So we saw in the previous example, there's a plan that's submitted, inspections that happen, maps, drawings, et cetera, and the intent is all this happens prior to the work occurring. In this case, this happened after the work occurred. So we were first notified in March of 2022 that Chevron wanted to abandon these pipelines. We directed them to have plans so that we could bring them forward. We didn't hear anything else. As we know, sometimes projects begin, sometimes they end, sometimes they don't go as planned. So we didn't know. In September of 2024, we were notified by Chevron that they were about to begin work, and we asked for further details on what was to be done for proper abandonment. And we notified them that abandonment plan had to happen. We still did not receive records. In January of 2025, Chevron said that it actually has neared completion of the abandonment work. And as we requested details on finalizing this, we verified that Bureau of Engineering had issued permits to Chevron and the work was done, but we did not receive an abandonment plan. We sent a notice in February of 2025 that Chevron was in non-compliance. A few days after that, we had a meeting and we explained what we're looking for in terms of abandonment, in terms of plans, drawings, etc. And plans were submitted to the office in May. That was nearly 3 months, though, after the notice of non-compliance was sent. And again, 3 years after the first notification. So the process that's listed for abandonment envisions work coming to the board ahead of time. And that would include the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas, as well as the board itself, to approve the plans and authorize the work to occur. In this case, the written documents have been received, but the work has already occurred. And so these documents have been received afterwards. And we are recommending a penalty of $10,000 for the violation of the first offense. And there's a section of 2.6 which says monetary penalties for violations of franchise ordinance terms. The board may levy a monetary penalty on a grantee in addition to or suspending part of the franchise agreement privileges. And one section is late notification or late application or failure to submit application or notification to the board for changes, additions to the franchise agreement. And this would constitute a late notification. The franchisee has also been invited to attend this meeting, and a public comment was submitted this morning. In it, there was a characterization of the lack of records submitted as an internal communication lapse, as permits were issued by the Bureau of Engineering. However, the first submission of an abandonment plan by Chevron was in May of 2025, which is nearly 3 months after the notice of noncompliance was sent, and again, 3 years and 2 months after we were initially notified or requested for an abandonment plan. My staff, John Childs of the franchise section, as well as Daniel Liu, the Senior Environmental Engineer Compliance, and Shilpa Gupta are all here, and we're available for any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Before we get into questions, I would like to recognize Jason Downs representing Chevron. If you want to make your remarks.
And if I may, as Mr. Downs makes his way to the podium, the public comment that Ms. Blyther referred to has been distributed to all commissioners this morning, and it was submitted by Mr. Downs. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, President and members of the board. My name is Jason Downs, appearing on behalf of Chevron USA, Inc. Chevron respectfully requests... Oh,
Hear you.
Can't hear me?
There you
Hello?
go. Thank you.
Sorry.
Can you get closer to the mic? Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, President and members of the board. My name is Jason Downs, appearing on behalf of Chevron USA, Inc. Chevron respectfully requests a proposed $10,000 penalty for the alleged non-compliance in Section 4.7 of the ordinance number 184-954 be withdrawn. The record shows that Chevron followed the city's instructions, obtained BOE permits, permitted work under the permits, and has continued paying franchise fees on these facilities at issue. Point number 1, notice and direction. First, Chevron affirmatively notified the City of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety, the OPNGAS, of its interest to discontinue use and undertake abandonment activities on the specified segments. OPNGAS directed Chevron to the Bureau of Engineering to obtain the appropriate authorization, and the Bureau issued the first of many permits in January 2022, each with 6-month durations and as extended. Chevron then commenced work starting in late 2022, continuing through late 2024, and completing the activities in January 2025 on reliance of those permits issued. Point number 2, the ordinance texts support the BOE role. Second, ordinance number 184-954 expressly contemplates the role of public works bureaus in street and right-of-way approvals. It defines the Board of Public Works to include where context indicates appropriately, another governmental agency or department of the city to the extent that it may have jurisdiction over the street. BOE is precisely that engineering right-of-way authority. The issuance of BOE permits thus represents appropriate city authorization for work in public right-of-way, contemplates section 4.7 of procedural framework. Point number 3, the City of LA internal breakdowns are not Chevron's fault. Third, the board's report explanation that the permits were issued due to staffing issues and a breakdown in communication between OPNGAS and the BOE describes an internal issue within the Department of Public Works. Chevron cannot be penalized for following the city's directives and relying on duly issued BOE permits. The city had multiple opportunities during the permit issuance, at expiration points, and while work progressed to flag any additional steps or to withhold authorization, and it did not. Hypothetically, this is like a police officer waving you through a red light and then another police officer sitting on the other side of the intersection writing you a ticket for running the red light because he disagreed with the other officer's decision to wave you through. Except in this case, the ticket is for $10,000. Point number 4, no completed abandonment yet. There is no completed abandonment under the ordinance. No final city approval has been issued. No transfer of title to the city has occurred. And Chevron has continued paying franchise fees on these facilities. Section 4.7 addresses abandonment not in process work under city permits. Penalizing Chevron mid-process before the city has taken its own finalizing actions would be premature and contrary to the ordinance structure. If the board is now taking a position that these facilities have been formally abandoned, then we respectfully request the board reimburse Chevron for the approximate $30,000 annually it has paid in 2026 and prior for the franchise fees associated with these facilities. For these reasons, Chevron respectfully requests that the board withdraw the penalty and instead direct staff to provide any remaining specific steps needed to close out this abandonment process in accordance with ordinance number 184954. Chevron stands ready to submit any supplemental documentation to schedule inspections or take any additional steps to work with the city to finalize the abandonment process. Thank you again, President and board members, for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. I do want to bring back up our administrator to our podium. I think first up, if you could kind of address some of the points that was raised by Mr. Downs related to their sort of approach to this, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Sure. So they did apply for permits to the Bureau of Engineering, and we have since talked to Bureau of Engineering saying, if you get requests for permits, please let us know, because that's something that people might do the permit process, but we still don't have the overall abandonment plan, and we don't know where are the intersections, where are the locations, where is this work occurring in the city? Is this work that we agree with? And again, if there's a financial instrument, these were not removed, these pipelines are not removed from the ground, they're left in place. So we, the city, need to be in agreement with how that occurs, because it ultimately reverts to us to own and be responsible for any liabilities that come from those future pipelines. If we don't get a chance to weigh in on those, there are a lot of concerns, which is why we do want to have an iterative process with the franchisee prior to the abandonment work occurring. So that was demonstrated in the previous case. Brady Cannon's worked with us and said, does this process make sense? And we were able to weigh in and agree with it, also submit notification to the council office. We were not able to do that with this Chevron case. So there should be some communication prior to the work occurring. We did, in fact, after we had this communication back in February of 2025, we did have communication, we had a meeting. So they responded by sending us documentation. And I think it does qualify as an abandonment plan with locations, maps, and things. But the issue here, and we're only asking for a very minor penalty of $10,000 for late communication. And again, this is communication after the work has occurred. That is in fact late. It's not before, it's after. So that would be late communication. And that's what the basis of this violation is.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions related to this? Commissioner Carlos.
Yes, thank you. I guess Chevron is, if I'm not mistaken, Chevron is stating that because they contacted BOE, you should have known about it. And my question, no, is that not what you said?
We sent a notice to the board in March of 2022. We also contacted the BOE, because we pull lots of permits with the city of LA, and we have a great partnership with permits. And we also contacted the your department, Petroleum Administration Department, and we also emailed in May of 2022 because we had no response from the board of our notice. That also included the work plan and the first initial permit by the BOE granted. And there's multiple permits granted on this. Thank you.
Okay, so
And there's many emails prior to starting work and commitments of work and working with the city on this work.
no, I appreciate that because emails are much better than conversations over the phone because you can't go back to them. So can you please explain? I'm getting a little confused now. So what was the miscommunication, if there was one, from Chevron? If you please can explain.
Well, I do not have an abandonment plan from Chevron. And so when I got it was in May of 2025, what I'd consider to be an abandonment plan. I agree they did apply for permits. I didn't have an abandonment plan. And so that's what the question is and my concern. And so that's my point.
So in the communication you had in 22, when Chevron approached OPE for the initial discussion to go ahead and potentially abandon a section of piping, the communication from your office to Chevron was, we need an abandonment plan for our office, and at the same time, you need to go to BOE to get permits to make that work happen. Is that my understanding?
That's my understanding. It was a prior staff member who's no longer with us who sent that communication chain, so I don't necessarily have all those emails, but that was my understanding, that was the direction given. Provide us an abandonment plan, go to BOE to get permits.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? President Pro Tem Grant.
So, Chevron, did you receive?
Mike.
As that works. In 2022, you notified the Office of Petroleum, instead of all those long abbreviation, that you're going to abandon some of your pipelines. Is that correct?
That's correct. In 2022,
Right.
and that with that notice that was filed certified mail, it also had a work plan and the first of many City of LA engineering
Right.
permits approved with all
And
departments.
then, do you recall if you received communication back from the Office of Petroleum indicating what steps were to be taken since you decided to abandon these pipelines?
Yes, I have many emails going back and forth. We were instructed to go to the BOE and confirm everything as what the City of LA wanted to on the abandonment project and work with the BOE to get that. We were informed that eventually we would need the board to vote on approval of the abandonment, which many emails I've asked, is there any future steps or next steps needed? Just in my basic timeline, I have well over 10 plus emails going back and forth on plans, the submittal. The work plans were in the initial notice given to the city, and the permit package has the full work plan as well.
Is the full work plan the same as the plan for abandonment?
Yeah, the work plan is the
I'm trying to
plan with
understand
the
the
abandonment.
language here.
It says what we're going to do, how we're going to do it and what we're going to do. What we submitted to the city that Erica's talking about is because we finished the abandonment work. We actually submitted what we call a 207. It's our full abandonment paperwork. It's like a 200-page
It's
document
what's been done.
that shows everything.
But prior to the work being undertaken, was it, I thought I heard you say that you were told that BOE will tell you exactly what needs to be done for abandonment. Is that correct?
Yeah, we
And
were
who
told
told
to
you,
go-
and who told you that?
Gordon, let's see. Gordon replied to reach out to Daniel Liu and let's see, this was 2020. Let's see. We also have, let's see, Tamara Martin and Gordon Jung stated the notice. Oh, I sent it to him. Gordon Jung and Tamara Martin responded regarding the permit and abandonment plan sent to them, including the notice, the permit.
And who are they? The people that you're naming?
Tamara Martin, I understand, is no longer with the city, and Gordon Jung is with the city.
Which department?
Department of Petroleum.
Petroleum. Okay, just wanted to make sure because which are petroleum folks or which are engineering folks, and tried to sort out who's telling who what.
And with
It's on you.
engineering, it was we were working with multiple. I don't think I even have the emails, all the emails for engineering. Yeah, Jeff Martinez is a contract senior land, and he pulled the permit, the second permit, not the first one.
Yeah, so I was responsible for submitting the permits to the Bureau of Engineering and also a lot of the communication with the Petroleum Administration. So once the permits from the Bureau of Engineering were issued to us, they have a window, right? They're not good forever. They have an expiration date. So we submitted those to the Petroleum Administration asking for any steps that were needed in addition to this. And that was prior to work starting.
So you asked BOE that?
We asked Petroleum
asked
Administration
Petroleum that.
after the permits were issued.
And the permits, just edify
I'm
me.
sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay.
The
I'm
Bureau
not
of
as
Engineering
smart as
permits were
Ernie.
issued, I think it was in August of 2024.
But the permits do not necessarily equate to being an abandonment plan, right?
Well,
you could have permits to do closing of, I don't know.
That's an excellent question. So what constitutes an abandonment plan is a little vague because different cities require different things. And so that was somewhat of the confusion between the two parties, is that one could argue that the permits that were issued that include a work plan and traffic control and all the things that go with a Bureau of Engineering permit, those could be considered in some cities an abandonment plan. So what was submitted to the Petroleum Administration after the work was completed, what we're calling our abandonment plan, includes pictures of the work, specific locations of the pipelines, so on and so forth. A lot more detailed of the work in progress and the final product.
So, and Eric, if you could help me on this, my understanding is that the Petroleum Administration's concern is that abandonment plan is a larger picture of a number of aspects that have to be done. Some may or may not necessarily require a permit or not require the same type of engineering permit. Is that some of the confusion that's going on here?
So it's
Or
my understanding
parties?
the confusion is that once the work was completed and we had our meeting with the Petroleum Administration and Erica, we specifically asked, do you have a checklist or some direction on what is required for your abandonment plan that would satisfy the Petroleum Administration? And her response was, no, we don't have anything, a checklist of sorts. Just submit what you guys think is appropriate, and then we'll review it, and then we'll present it, if acceptable, we'll present it to you guys within 2 to 3 weeks at the next board meeting. That was 8 months ago. So after that meeting happened, there was a period of about, I want to say about 4 months, maybe you can correct me exactly, when the actual official abandonment plan was submitted to the Petroleum
But the 8-month ago meeting, did that take place after you had completed all your work regarding the abandoning these pipelines?
Yes.
Okay,
So we got
I
our,
guess there was an abandonment plan submitted early on, as you're saying?
he's saying there was, because there was some work that was done in 2022, and then there was another majority of the work was done in 2024.
And did the abandonment plan, sir, that you submitted include everything that was going to be done, or was it more limited nature?
It included everything that was going to be done. It was submitted as an exhibit
Submitted to the
the
Petroleum
notice.
Administration.
Submitted to the board and the board of city board. The notice was submitted to city board.
Eric, can you respond to that, please?
I just wanted to state, when we had our meeting in February, I asked for an abandonment plan. I don't know why that work plan wouldn't have come to me at that point.
It was already given to you.
But you could have,
I'm sorry, wait, it's sort of,
but I don't know why that work plan wasn't given to me as, oh, yes, we've submitted this abandonment plan. Here's what we were planning to do.
Again.
That's not what happened. It was a good, like you said, 3-4 months before we got what they called an abandonment plan. So there could have been, there was some staff turnover and we lost some staff, and there were some emails I don't have access to. So it could be that was what was submitted, but I don't know why that would not have been submitted to me again after we had our meeting in February and said, oh yeah, this is where our work plan is. That could have ended this right there if this was comprehensive and showed everything. We could have had back and forth, but that's not what happened. It was months later that I got that document.
so is the abandonment plan, sir, that you submitted early on the same one that was submitted 4 months ago? Their difference is?
Yeah, the first is just the abandonment plan of what we're going to do. It was submitted with the notice that was certified mail in 2022. Multiple emails when asked about it, we kept giving the original notice by email with that exhibit, both the exhibit of the original permit and the original work plan, which to us is a pre-abandonment plan. What we gave 4 months later is because we finished the work, so we wanted to give the city all the information.
I understand, but is what you presented in 2022 the work that you're going to undertake to abandon the pipeline the same basically as the report that you gave the administration of what you have done?
So it's two
Other
different.
than
It
some
looks different
verb tense.
because the first one is what we're going to do, and we give you what we're going to do, and the last one was what we did, and
And were
it
they
was
the
way more
same?
comprehensive.
Were they the same? What
They're
you
the
said you're
same-
going to
same
do, and did you
segments.
do the same, exactly what you said
Yeah.
you were going to do? Okay,
Yes,
that's-
we did exactly what we said we would.
And let me add, I think that Erica's concern is that when we met in 20, we had a call in February 24, 2025, but she didn't actually receive the final abandonment plan until May 12th, 2025. So a few months later. That is her concern. However, these abandonment plans are pretty detailed. They're a couple hundred pages. They require our field operations guys to submit pictures, to submit detail of all the work that was done. It takes a minute to put these together. They also, because it's Chevron and we need to check a lot of boxes, it has to go through legal, it has to go through public affairs. There are a lot of things. So that window there, in our opinion, is pretty small and reasonable to submit the final abandonment plan.
So what you're talking about is as-built, basically. Well, in a reverse method, but as-built, as you left
As
it.
built,
As you left it.
as we
Yeah.
left it. That would be correct, right?
Yeah, and as-built is, because it's one thing, a plan is what you started out with, as-built are how we actually did it, or actually, how you actually undid it in this case.
Correct. That is correct.
I think my and Erica, please help me. The confusion here in what I'm getting is not that you didn't submit it, is that is there concrete evidence that the Office of Petroleum recognized, yes, we received file X on this date, and it sounds like from the report that was received after the fact, and you're here stating that it was received early on. And is there some type of, you said it was sent certified mail, so you have a copy of somebody signing for that?
So all of our Bureau of Engineering permits were submitted to the Office of Petroleum Administration prior to work starting, allowing them to give comments and feedback prior to the work being started. Because of the time constraints of the Bureau of Engineering permits, we were unable to meet the requirements. of
Understood.
both
So,
departments.
and I think the whole reason for the fine is we didn't, or Office of Petroleum did not receive them in time. So is that what I'm getting? So they're saying that they sent it certified mail, and somebody in the city of Los Angeles signed for that certified mail. You have a copy of that certified mail with somebody's signature on it, but I know we've had turnover in the office, but you don't have anybody physically now that's saying, yeah, I have it in my desk, I should, somewhere in a file. Is that the disconnect?
And let me add, ultimately, at the end of the day, we have more pipelines. We have more pipelines
Yes.
that we would like to abandon. We would like to keep a professional working relationship with the Petroleum Administration. And at the end of the day, we want to just what Brea is doing and just presented, right, with the getting out of our franchise fees by properly abandoning this and getting approval from you guys. That is the ultimate goal for us.
And the purpose of this whole process is, especially when the pipes are abandoned, and the city takes over responsibility of those abandoned pipes. So we want to make sure exactly where they are, and if they were abandoned properly, cleaned properly, and we have certification of those being cleaned properly in records, and BCA can inspect those endpoints to make sure that they're properly cleaned and the items that were taken out of them were properly disposed of, all that fun stuff that goes along with abandoning environmental hazardous waste in this case. So help me
It's
out.
for our benefit and your benefit, right?
What's that?
It's for both parties' benefit.
Oh, 100%. Yes. And that's why there's a process. And we want to make sure that the process is understood by our franchisees so that whenever they do this type of work, they know you got to step A through F and not start at C. Okay? So what are we missing here, Erica?
Commissioners, I do want to wrap debate on this item, and I know Commissioner Mitchell has been waiting, so Commissioner Mitchell.
No worries, no worries. Mr. Downs, you're Jason Downs? Okay, Mr. Downs. In your public comment that we received, you mentioned that the BOE permits were issued in January 22, correct?
Correct, yes.
With a 6-month expiration date. So
Correct.
was any work done then? It looks like the work wasn't done until late 24, 25, correct?
Work started in September 2022. We got it extended, that first permit, and that was after notice and providing.
Okay, but that would have been beyond 6 months if you got it in
Yes, it was extended.
September.
It was, yeah, there's 10 different permits for all this
Okay,
work.
that's what we need to understand because, you just say a permit was obtained and it seems like there's more work there. So basically, Ms. Blyther's office didn't get the plan, so to speak, until 4 months after they requested, but the work had been done?
They got the initial plans in March of 2022, and then I also emailed the Bureau of Petroleum in May to confirm, and then they
May of what year?
2022, and then was
And
directed
again,
to work with the Bureau.
Understand, you can tell me that you got emails, you sent all this stuff, but understand we only have your public comment and your comments here today. We don't have any evidence of that. So I'm not evidence.
We have evidence of all the emails going back and forth, and 10 permits costing 10,000 plus.
So there's multiple permits.
Yes,
Were
it's
they
a
all
phased
obtained at the
process.
same time?
No, it's a phased process to abandon. As we abandon, we have to get permits to abandon it, different sections. This was
But what
multiple
was the first
sections.
one that was obtained in January 2022?
That first permit's just to kick it off and start as we continue the abandonment
And was that work
process.
still done late?
That work, So it's a 6-month on the original permit, and then we obtained an extension on the original permit, and then we kicked off in September 2022, and then through 10 plus permits all the way through the beginning of
As you
2025.
get the permits, let me ask you this. At the beginning, you know you're going to need 10 permits in terms of the segments that you're abandoning?
We don't know. We submitted the full scope of work plan in the initial permit, but what ends up happening with the City of LA permitting is the way the Bureau of Engineering dictates us to break out the permits, and we follow the orders of the Bureau of Engineering, and we also communicate and give those permits to the petroleum group.
But the work wasn't done on time, right? In other words, even the work that started in September 2022, was that
Well,
phased in?
A permit, it's a phased process. This can't be done in 6 months. This was a phased over 2.5 years of work. It's a lot of work. It was thousands and thousands of feet of pipe.
And did you continue paying the franchise fees?
Yes, we've paid the
throughout?
franchise fees because officially they're not abandoned per the City of LA. And once we get that approval, we would deduct that from our asset list.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And I know VP Chavez hasn't spoken, so Vice President Chavez.
Thank you. So, okay, so these are the facts as I understand them. So, the office, OP&G basically directed Chevron to go to BOE. Now, there's a question, there's a difference of opinion on what you were supposed to go to BOE for, but fact of the matter is, OP&G directed Chevron to work with BOE and get approval, which Chevron says you did, OP&G says you did not. But the way I look at it is, and I think from the city staff report, there were breakdowns in communication, which your office has admitted, but there were multiple points where the city could have revoked the permits, but we did not. So work went forward. And so I think that that raises some questions which are like separate from a policy perspective. We need to be looking at better communication within the Department of Public Works between OP&G and BOE specifically. I think that's a whole separate issue. But on this matter, I would propose that we direct OP&G to work with Chevron on closing out the process, because this abandonment is not done, correct? The transfer has not happened, correct?
Transfer has not happened. The work has been done, and then we would like to do what Brea
Okay,
can.
so is Chevron basically saying that you would continue to resolve this issue and close it out and work through a checklist and do all the things that you're required to do so that it can transfer to us? Is that
Yes,
correct?
we are gladly and want to get that
Okay,
done.
so I propose that we direct city staff to do that at this point. And I think given all of the issues with this, I think that would be a fair resolution, withdrawing the penalty at this point in exchange for finalizing the abandonment through a closeout checklist. That's something that I would support, since we still need to, the work is near complete, we still need to inspect it, we need to make sure it's approved. We need to do that, unless we're going to reject it, the abandonment. I don't know if that's something we can do, but I would prefer that we work through that out. So that's something that I would propose at this stage.
So thank you, Vice President Chavez. A couple things on my end. As I heard both of your points, is I still having a hard time with the fact that when you met in February, if you already had the plans that you say you submitted early in the process, why did it take you several months? I understand you want to give a comprehensive plan. That's why you're saying it took months, legal review and things. But why did it take you months to do that and didn't really indicate otherwise at that meeting?
We did. We said that we submitted the original work plans with the notice, and we had provided multiple times on request that original notice, the work plans, and the permits. So our view was that the original abandonment plan that said what we were going to do was submitted, and we kept doing. Since we had finished the work in January and we talked in February, maybe it was miscommunication on my part and Jeff. We were saying that we're going to build the actual abandonment plan and submit it to you since we finished, because that's what we've done and that was the process moving forward. So that was probably miscommunication. We were submitting our actual abandonment plan of the finished work.
Can I add to that 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 we had that February meeting. In March, we did communicate with the Petroleum Administration, say we were still working on that, and we did have to go through the proper channels internally at Chevron. And then once again, we communicated with them again in April, letting them know we are still working on it. And then it was sent in May. And once again, we have to go get pictures. We have to get our field guys who, are very busy, to put all of that information together. And doing that without a checklist or some guidance from the city is a little difficult. It's,
So I know what, so you're saying you had two plans. One was this is what we're going to do, and what you submitted in May is what you did.
that is correct.
If in February, if the red flag was why didn't you submit your abandonment plan, and if you already had submitted what you're going to do, why couldn't you submit that for the record if you already had it?
We
to
did.
Erica?
It would have been submitting something we've already submitted.
But that would have resolved that issue from the get-go, because you were being told by the city you didn't follow our protocol. You could have simply resolved it then. I have a hard time knowing that, Chevron is not a mom and pop store. So if it was a mom and pop, I think I would, give a little bit more leniency. But the fact that, Chevron is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, I have a hard time, following some of for me personally. I may disagree with some of my colleagues, but that's where I stand. And Eric, I do want to ask you to come back up one last time to clarify that point, because I feel like there's a little bit of a back and forth of what the February meeting really entailed. So if you want to clarify that point for us one last time.
Sure, and I'd like to really point out what spurred the February meeting was we sent a notice of noncompliance to Chevron. So we had been sending emails back and forth. I asked for guidance from the city attorney because I was like, we're not getting information from Chevron. They recommended send a notice of compliance. They're not sending you the documentation you need. Then we had the meeting 4 days later after I sent that notice of noncompliance, because we hadn't received any documentation. We've been asking for it. We didn't receive it. And that's when we had a meeting and we actually met and talked. So I did want to verify that as far as we knew, we had not received any of that documentation. And I don't know why that wasn't submitted to us.
One last time, and then we'll go to Commissioner Carter.
Erica, just real quick, and I know hopefully I'm not going in circles, but at that meeting, did Chevron say, we sent it to you in 22?
I don't recall that. They said we submitted a permit package to BOE. They said that.
Well, in order to send us a package to BOE, it had to have their drawing, their plan, because they just didn't send a letter to BOE, they sent a plan to BOE. And I find it interesting, and Chevron, you're saying you sent it certified mail, so there's copies of that, and you're stating that you have more than one email stating that as well. So I don't know, I'm just, it sounds like what they're stating is they tried to follow the rules or follow the process, and for some reason, your office doesn't have that other end of the communication. I find it interesting and unfortunate.
I don't know, President Pro Tem Grant. And really quick, for the members of the public, quick announcement is that given that our board meeting is running a little bit over today, our management meeting will be canceled for today. So the management meeting will not be happening, given that this meeting is expected to go much longer. And President Pro Tem Grant.
Thank you. I'm of two minds of this thing. I understand, I think that there might be a bureaucracy that was sort of hard to navigate, and that you felt that you were complying with what was necessary. On the other hand, my sense of the Petroleum Administration that there are guidelines and that they are the one that sort of oversees this whole process and were not notified in a proper way that enabled them to figure out exactly what's going on with the petroleum within the city. At least for me, I don't feel comfortable going forward without, I would like to see all the communications between the parties to understand what was presented when, what was the response from the administration from the 2022 initial plan to the notice of compliance and further, in 2025. I would personally want to see exactly the twists and turns of this thing to sort of understand, can the lack of presentation of a plan be excused, or was it presented? And similarly, was there notification that should have been followed?
I do concur with that assessment, and as president, I know, because right now it's becoming like he said, she said, because we don't see any of that. And you're saying you have certified mail, and we don't know. We want to believe what you're saying. So I do want to, for both parties, I do want to propose that we continue this item for 2 weeks, for February 4th, 2026.
Just say one. So I did bring a lot of the email communication back and forth. But ultimately, at this point, Chevron just wants to move forward with the abandonment plan. And honestly, this has taken a lot of time and effort from the city and Chevron to argue over the emails. I know we submitted attachment after attachment after attachment and had direction from the Bureau of Petroleum. But if there's a way we could just move forward with the abandonment, I do have the emails here, not the attachments with them, and the back and forth where people were receiving from the Petroleum Department. But like I said, I would respectfully request from Chevron just to move forward. So whatever the board's approval or that's what I would like to request.
Vice President Chavez, you had a final comment.
Yeah, I have a motion that I'd like to make that builds on my previous proposal, which is, I agree, I think the public interest is best served in moving forward. There's a lot of other things that I know OP&G has to work on, that this board has to work on. And I think there was a breakdown on both sides. I don't think anyone's blameless here. I would move that the board temporarily suspends the $10,000 penalty, giving Chevron 90 days to complete a closeout checklist that OP&G and any other necessary bureaus, including BOE, provide within 14 days. And if Chevron completes everything, then the penalty is withdrawn. But if they fail, the board should reinstate the original penalty. That's what I would like to move today.
Let's do a quick discussion. Any final comments, commissioners, before we entertain the motion by Vice President Chavez? Any comments or final questions?
Nope.
All right, so VP Chavez, since you have a motion on the table, do you want to restate that for the record?
Yes, I would like to move that we suspend the $10,000 penalty, giving Chevron 90 days to complete the closeout checklist that OP&G and BOE will provide within 14 days. And if Chevron completes everything, that the penalty is permanently withdrawn. And if not, then this board can reinstate that penalty.
I'll second.
So this is TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer of the Board of Public Works. And I'd just like to restate for the record what is being moved by VP Chavez. And so we have currently recommendation 1, which we would change to direct the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Safety to temporarily suspend the $10,000 penalty and complete, and for Chevron to complete. Chevron USA Incorporated to complete a 90-day closeout checklist. Failure to complete the closeout will reinstate the $10,000 penalty. If completion is satisfied, the penalty will be waived, will not be assessed.
If everything's completed, the penalty will be waived
If everything is very well.
or withdrawn, whatever the proper terminology is.
So the point of clarification is that you're saying 14 days.
14 days for OPNG to prepare the checklist. It's a closeout checklist. They keep talking about a closeout checklist.
This motion contingent on preparation of a checklist, when I think the only thing we're really looking for is to find total abandonment within 90 days. And Commissioner Kane suggested that we put it over for 2 weeks so we could receive the material, that the evidence of the emails, whatever else. So what's the 14 days have to do anything?
The 14 days is for OPNG to give the checklist of what Chevron needs to do in order to complete the abandonment.
Well, is there any question about what Chevron needs to do?
We believe we submitted everything, but we have been waiting for direction of if there's any more items needed. We were actually
So it should
looking
take
for a
1 day?
board vote prior to this notice of violation. We were instructed we should be able to get on the board within a couple weeks and get a board vote for approval, and then we didn't hear anything for 9 months, and then a violation came in. So yes, we think we submitted everything. If there's something else, we're glad to submit our answer.
Erica, what's the status?
So we have their plan. We've been checking with BCA to
I
verify.
can't hear you.
We have their abandonment plan. We're checking with BCA to verify that the inspections occurred on the work. We just got that verification last week. We need to have some type of CEQA documentation for the closing of these pipelines. We don't have that. So yeah, we could make that into a checklist. That's fine. We can do that. But we have not received any CEQA documentation from Chevron at this point. We have with Brea Canyon. That was part of the abandonment plan that we brought forward to the board in the previous item. But we do need some type of that.
I'm not sure we even need to worry about 90 days if you pretty much are that much closer, almost done. Why don't we just waive the $10,000 or deny the $10,000 fine at this point in time, and you guys close it out?
Yeah, we would need some of those remaining steps, so we need the CEQA document. So we'll have to review what Chevron submits in terms of CEQA. We haven't seen that yet. But, and then we can bring the abandonment plan, as we did with the previous item, we can bring that plan to the board to sign off on, and we'll need the financial instrument to transfer ownership. We haven't received those items.
I agree with
Final.
I agree with the motion. I mean, the list may be one item, doesn't matter, but I'll go ahead and call for the question.
I feel like there's like two separate schools of thought here, but if the desire is to get resolution today, yes or no, versus I'm happy to, put that to a vote. I know there's a motion on the table as well, but for Chevron, for example, is your desire to get resolution today?
Our desire is to work to get an approval for the final abandonment.
Okay. Well, let's.
I believe there's a call for the question.
Yeah. So let's first let's see if the motion set forth by VP Chavez And then we'll, if that doesn't pass, we'll discuss other options after that.
So we have a motion.
We have Vice President Chavez's motion, first by VP Chavez, seconded by Commissioner Cardenas.
Very well. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 8 as amended, starting with you, President Kang.
I'm a no.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
No.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
So that is, it does not pass. It's 2-3 with the noes winning.
So given that we do want to expedite, I do want to respect the other school of thought. Maybe instead of a 2-week continuance, we do a 1 week, and then we look at all the documentations that you have and OPNG, and then we make that final determination. So I will ask for a continuance for January 28, 2026. And then we will revisit this issue on the 28th.
And can we have those documents 7 days ahead of time so that we can actually look at them and be prepared to discuss them at late?
But with the continuance to next Wednesday, that would not, well, 7 days ahead.
So we would respectfully ask both parties to submit ASAP, yeah.
But if the continuance is to next,
What are you saying?
the President Kang has proposed a continuance without objection to January 28th, and the request from Commissioner Mitchell is for.
Oh, I thought you said 2 weeks.
2 weeks, but they're asking for an expedited time frame, so.
Okay. Can you, I tell you what, this is what I got great ideas. Can we do this today? We'll continue it for a week. Could you please, whatever the documents are, could we have copies of those and send, and give it to Mr. Knight so that we can have copies and he can distribute them forthwith? We'll be prepared for next Wednesday.
Is there any way, just for the benefit of all parties here, even if you're going to put the monetary amount maybe towards the final abandonment cost or something, at this point, Chevron wants to move forward. We'd be willing to entertain, you know, the penalty being maybe addressed as a payment towards the final abandonment or something. But we really just want to move forward with the abandonment and the processes and eliminate this back and forth any way possible.
President Pro Tem Grant?
Council, is there anything in that proposal that you have objections to, or does that seem?
Can you clarify what your proposal was? I didn't quite understand.
I don't mind sending all the documentation of the back and forth, but at this time, coming back to another meeting to discuss there was a miscommunication on both parties. I'm willing to accept that, and I just want to get moving forward with the board on a final abandonment. So if there's a way that Chevron can still make the monetary payment but not have it as a penalty on record, I would be able to get that approved.
So pursuant to the ordinance at issue here, the authority of the board is to impose a penalty up to $10,000. I'm not sure what other type of payment would be contemplated, but the authority here of what's before the board is a penalty. There's not another type of fee or something else that is authorized in the ordinance.
President Pro Tem Grant.
And is your suggestion to sort of bipolar this, that on one hand, we approve it, but lay in wait the question of a penalty at a later time? So
Yeah, that would work too. If you just approve pushing the penalty, kind of like Vice President Chavez of, you know, I'd rather come back here to move forward with the abandonment and not spend hours and hours, your time and our time, on discussing a $10,000 penalty, please.
My final question then to Erica would be, if we, let's say we, the fine moves forward today and we still request the documentation and review, is there a way for you to, as you close out, possibly provide a discount or a lower rate at the end of this process? Is that even a possibility?
I believe that in the franchise agreement, we can double check with city attorney and find out, but I believe the penalty starts at $10,000, up to $10,000 for the first offense. Up to 10,000.
Colleagues, we spent a lot of time this morning on one item, and we have several behind us. We can have two options. If you want to look at the documentation, we can hear it next Wednesday and have party appear remotely, or we can make a determination today and decide to either impose or waive any fines, given the record that we have.
I think it's the desire of Chevron for us to make the final determination today without, looking at further documentation. If you're okay with the final result, we're happy to proceed.
Yeah, I don't think it's my call to say a board vote.
Yes.
But I'll let you make your decision. Thank you.
President Pro Tem Guy.
One proposal would be a third proposal to what Commissioner Mitchell said, is that we approve the abandonment plan, but we postpone or continue the discussion whether or not a penalty should be assessed for violation of rules regarding when and how an abandonment plan is presented. Leave that discussion to a later time, but enable the parties to go forward with the abandonment paperwork, or whatever you will, now, so that Chevron can sort of close its books, if you will, and the city can regain ownership of the land.
Commissioner Mitchell, is that
bifurcated?
I'd like to have us just waive the fee at this point in time. It's just enough records in terms of going back and forth. There's several packages, there's several segments, so to speak. When we're talking about 10 separate permits, the work has been done. Maybe there's a miscommunication or whatever else, but it doesn't really seem to be something that's intentional given the circumstances. So I would think a fair resolution would be to waive any fine at this point in time, because what we're trying to do at this point is to start, getting our franchises all cleaned up, get them back in order. And this is one of the first cases we're having, so we spent a lot of time talking about what the record is, so to speak, and at this point in time, I'm not sure we're going to gain terribly much in terms of imposing a fine, given the facts as we know them right now. And any documentation, I'd rather have documentation at the time of consideration, but at this point in time, I feel like we're kind of spinning our wheels. So my suggestion would be at this point, we just waive any imposition of a fine and, come up with better communication patterns in the future to avoid this circumstance, so to speak. I mean, this is kind of a unique situation, but I don't know that it was an intentional disregard of the procedure that's established.
all right? Any final comments before we move forward? I think we'll just make the final determination today. So just hearing from all of you and from both parties, and the fact that we do want to come to a clear resolution, and to the effect of the earlier motion, I think we do want to move forward ASAP related to the abandonment plan. So I'll make that motion. I'll move to, for item number 8, to waive the $10,000 fine to Chevron and direct OPNG to fast track the abandonment process related to this site. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Are we going to put any kind of timeline on it? You guys, do we have any interest in giving a time certain so that this occurs? I was going to say, would we like to put a timeline on it? That's what I had suggested earlier.
We're waiving the fee. That's the motion.
If I can just interject very quickly, the item before the board is whether or not to impose a penalty or not. So it's really not about any timelines or the abandonment plan. It's just about what are we doing with this penalty.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. All right.
So should we make a different motion in terms of that ask? In other words, we would not impose a fine?
Yeah, I think the formal action to be taken would be an action on what to do with the penalty, but you can, of course, also encourage the Bureau to work quickly. It just wouldn't be the part of the formal action.
Okay. I guess we can encourage.
You accept that friendly amendment? You accept that friendly amendment?
Friendly
your
amendment? What would be the friendly amendment?
Council, would you restate?
I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Mitchell, you just want to focus on waiving the $10,000 penalty and omitting the portion about the expedition direction.
You accept that amendment to your motion?
Yes.
And I second that amendment to your motion. Feel sorry for you.
So the motion that's been offered and seconded is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is changing recommendation 1 from assess a monetary penalty to waive a monetary penalty. And then at the end, we say franchise ordinance and encourage OP&G to fast track the abandonment process with Chevron?
No.
Or would it be not approving the board report before you today?
I think what Commissioner Mitchell wants is just the first portion, so only saying waive the $10,000 penalty and leave it at that for purposes of the motion.
Okay, so direct the Office of Petroleum to waive the $10,000 penalty, not include the other language in here.
If that's what I'm understanding, but of course, let me know if that's incorrect.
That's what I would like to do and not worry about. I mean, it's going through the process already, so I wouldn't want to instruct staff to expedite the abandonment. I mean, you guys have everything you need, so it doesn't make sense to instruct staff on the timeline.
Although it won't be in the motion, we encourage all parties to get this resolved ASAP. The motion on the table is to waive the monetary payment in the amount of $10,000 to Chevron USA. Is there a second? And
Second.
Commissioner Mitchell seconded.
And first by you, President King.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 8 as amended, starting with you, President King.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
No.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
And I apologize, Pro Tem Grant, did you vote yes on this? No. Oh, you voted no. Excellent. So we have a 4-1, so it passes. Thank you. 4 ayes.
All right, moving forward to item number 9. In Council District 15, OP&G, non-compliance, once again, monetary payment for Warren Resources.
Thank you. And for this is where another pipeline abandonment. In this case, we have not received records, so we are asking for, again, same thing, it's an abandonment in place, so the city would own this, and we don't have adequate knowledge on how it was properly abandoned, and we would end up having the liability for it. So we asked Warren multiple times for their abandonment plans. This item was also at the December 8th meeting. On December 9th, some documents were submitted, and the documents that submitted were a mix of records covering oil well abandonments, which are not pipelines, and some vague references to pipeline abandonment work. The documents didn't include details on pipeline casing size, trench direction, or a traffic control plan. There was a lack of essential technical documents such as pictures, volumes of fill material used, GIS files, and specific drawings for each pipeline section, and no city inspection records. And in fact, in communication with Warren, they said they did not apply for any permits. So they did submit records that had a long work period with work starting as early as 2014. In some cases, work occurred in 2017 and cap lining was delayed until 2023, creating the potential for corrosion. There are some necessary elements like a substructure record map and a franchise ordinance spreadsheet detailing some pipeline length and function. However, the overall information is disjointed. This information should be compiled in a cohesive report. In general, the documentation that we have received was incomplete and unacceptable for sign-off as a full report or a plan for pipeline abandonment. The franchisee has also been invited to attend this board meeting, and a public comment was submitted. In it, there was a characterization of the submission from Warren. Warren's December 9th submission was not intended to be a comprehensive abandonment plan or final retrospective report. It was initial tranche of located records correlated to pipeline segments. And my concern is that no records were received until the threat of a notice of violation was raised. This threat of a fine is what made this a priority for Warren. We would be happy to work closely with Warren as we have with other franchises to work through the closing process and closing their franchise agreement. And all of the staff is available for questions. In this case, we're asking for 2 franchise agreements. So there would be a penalty of $10,000 for the first violation. And so one would be for late notification, again, because we're receiving notification after the work has occurred. And then also another one for failure to submit to the department the information requested, because we still don't have information or a comprehensive abandonment plan. Again, no CEQA documents, no GIS files, or any of that. So given that there are multiple violations across 2 of its franchises, we're requesting a penalty of $10,000 for each violation. And with 2 different distinct franchises implicated and 2 violations each, the total recommended penalty amount for Warren is $40,000. And again, this is a serious issue because we, the city, will own this pipeline infrastructure. We don't have any knowledge of how it was abandoned. We couldn't perform any inspections, at least in some cases where people have gotten permits and requested inspection from BCA. We have some knowledge of what was done and some confidence in the reporting and in the mechanisms. We don't have that in this case. So that's why we're asking for such a strong penalty. Again, my office and office members, John Childs, as well as Daniel Liu and Shilpa Gupta are here if there are any questions.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if Warren is here too.
And I did want to recognize Ty Thompson for item number 9.
Good morning, President Kang and members of the board. My name is Ty Thompson, representing
Do you mind pulling up the mic, or you can take it out of the... Yes, thank you.
representing Warren Resources of California and Warren EMP Inc. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. As the board is aware, this item is before you today because Warren was not properly notified of the December 8th hearing date and therefore could not appear or respond at that time. We appreciate the board and the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety correcting that procedural issue and allowing us to address the concerns directly. Our purpose today is straightforward. First, to provide context for the history of these pipelines. Second, to explain why the records are fragmented. And third, to propose a practical path forward that resolves this matter responsibly. At the outset, I want to be very clear on one point. Warren has continuously maintained all required bonds and has paid franchise fees on time every year. Most recently, a few days ago, Warren paid approximately $180,000 in franchise fees for the year of 2026 for these 2 ordinances. There's no incentive for us to delay resolution here. To the contrary, we remain responsible for an escalating annual obligation for pipelines that are no longer used and provide no benefit. No party is more motivated than Warren to complete this process correctly and bring these franchises to a proper close. The pipelines at issue were not constructed as part of a single modern project. Many date back to the early 1970s and were installed as part of a city-approved water flood and pressure maintenance program in the Wilmington oil field to address significant subsidence that was affecting public infrastructure and safety, including in the neighboring Long Beach and the port there. Over the decades since these pipelines were installed, multiple operators, including Global Oil, Exxon, et cetera, owned, operated, and discontinued use of various lines in this area. In many cases, pipelines ceased operation years or decades before Warren became the franchise holder. But the administrative step of formally removing these pipelines from the franchise records either never occurred or was not properly documented. As a result, Warren inherited an oil field with an exceptionally long operational history and fragmented documentation, created under different operator standards and regulatory regimes. And we're here, I'd like to point out too, we're here for the long haul, and we'd like to, be able to close out our field in a responsible way. I think, Given the city's position on oil and gas, we recognize that our purpose here is to continue to produce oil to support abandonment operations. We're moving forward with abandoning our wells and, facing headwinds. We have a lot that we have to do to accomplish that. And we don't feel that the $40,000 fee is a fair way to address that. The core issue before the board today is not whether pipelines were abandoned safely, but whether historical records are complete, consolidated, and formatted to modern expectations. We agree with the office that the records are disjointed currently. That's because abandonment activities occurred over decades. Documentation exists in varied forms, and city inspection records from older work are limited or unavailable. Despite these challenges, Warren has located records indicating abandonment activities consistent with industry standards at the time, including flushing and purging of lines, filling with inert fluids where required, sectionalizing and capping ends, and providing notice to the city in at least a few documented instances that I was able to find. I think some of the documentation that was submitted already, specifically the December 9th submission that we submitted in preparation for the December 10th hearing date, there was information about the diameter of the lines provided there. We provided as much information as we could at that point, and I think, I'll talk about that a little more. A few clarifications in response to city concerns are important. That December 9th abandonment plan was not intended to be a comprehensive abandonment plan or final retrospective report. It was an initial tranche of located records submitted to obtain feedback from the office on what additional documentation the city requires. The same cooperative approach is continuing, including a December 30th submission for the WTU franchise under Ordinance 180567. Second, Warren is seeking abandonment in place, not trenching and removal. Accordingly, traffic control plans were not prepared as if open cut excavation were proposed. Section 4.7 expressly contemplates abandonment in place, subject to board direction. Finally, we respectfully request either dismissal of the proposed penalty or a continuance of its implementation while we complete the city's documentation requirements for a few reasons. Warren is already financially on the hook in a meaningful way. Warren maintains a faithful performance bond in the sum of $209,000 under the franchise, and that bond remains in place during the franchise and thereafter until obligations are liquidated. That bond, combined with ongoing franchise fee payments, including the $180,000 recently paid for 2026, already provides strong leverage to ensure follow-through. The franchise language provides city protection after abandonment. The franchise includes robust indemnification obligations requiring Warren to defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the city and its boards, officers, agents, employees, and successors, subject to the stated exception for city's active negligence or willful misconduct. Section 4.7 also requires an instrument provided by the city attorney transferring ownership of abandoned facilities to the city and includes hold harmless language tied to prior uses and operations. In other words, the path the city is requesting exists in the ordinance itself, an abandonment in place process, documentation to the city's satisfaction, and a formal instrument transfer. This approach maintains appropriate leverage, recognizes the unique historical context of this infrastructure, and focuses all parties on the shared objective of a complete, auditable record and orderly franchise termination. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Want to ask Erica to come back up to address the points that was raised.
I believe he raised the fact that documentation is disjointed and not a comprehensive abandonment plan. Correct, they have been paying their annual fees. They paid their annual fees just late last week, and they have maintained their bond. But that's not the issue here. The issue is, are they doing abandonment work without our knowledge, without our buy-in and knowledge of the processes that they're using? That's the issue, is that they're doing this work. We haven't had a chance to review it and make sure that the city is okay with this process. We've seen it happen. Brea Cannon was able to do that successfully, submit plans. We were able to weigh in and say, okay, yes, we accept this work and that there's some confidence in, now that we're going to own this, we know how it was done and we can maintain it in some fashion. We have not received that with Warren, and that's the issue at stake. So one, we don't have the documentation. Two, we're getting notification after the fact, after the work has already occurred.
Thank you very much. Did you want to address some of that before we get to questions?
Sure, thank you. So I guess one big point that comes into play here is given the, given the history of the field and the state of the documentation, Warren, we're not Chevron. We are more of a mom and pop size company. We have a very small team of office staff that has to comply with all of the regulations that we face here. And what we're really, so like I said, it's not an excuse at all, but we had a change in our engineering team, and I joined in late August 2024, and kind of became responsible for a lot of this. And in late 2024 is when we were performing some abandonment work on some surface facilities because the land had been sold, and that party that bought the property wanted that work completed by the end of the year. We did attempt to establish communication, attempted to get an idea of what was required, and we had trouble for whatever reason. There was a breakdown in communication, and I guess so. What happened, right? There was NWTU. We're not disputing the fact that some lines, and sorry, in the I don't have it 181384, I believe, and we call it NWU, and that area that had flushing, there was no work that disturbed the surface of any city of LA public right away. There was flushing and filling with inert fluid and capping of lines that took place. And then we, like I said, we proactively, we like I stated, we have every incentive to terminate this. We have no desire to continue paying our franchise fee in perpetuity for lines that we don't use. So we did, gladly hold the meeting with the city on May 2nd to discuss, with Erica, Ms. Blyther and her team, to discuss what we needed to do to move forward. And they, what was stated to us is if we provided documentation, what we had, we said at the time that it was disjointed. I know don't want this to get into a he said, she said situation again, but in summary, right, our understanding was that what would happen is we could provide documentation we had, we could work back and forth on a method to determine what was needed to close the franchise, to ensure the lines were properly abandoned. Yeah, given the historic nature of the field, and all the work that we're trying to determine that was done over the last several decades, the process took much longer than anticipated. And we, facing some other actions with the plan approval hearing with the zoning administrator and other things that took some of our time, we regrettably did not get the documents to the Office of Petroleum Natural Gas Administration and Safety in the timeline that we had thought we would be able to. So that's really, a big piece of it. The other piece too, just related, and I'll make it quick, but with the two franchises at question here, the one franchise where, to my knowledge, work was, there was some work performed, that was an NWU and 181384. That franchise, to my knowledge, that's the only one that we have current, knowledge that there was some work that was performed prior to an approval. There's still, so I guess, with issuing a penalty for the other franchise where currently there's no evidence of work performed there. We're still in the process of submitting documentation, seeing what was done, seeing what we still need to do in that particular franchise. We recently, even in last September, we ceased use in some lines, but we haven't performed any abandonment. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's, even if a penalty were assessed, I think 2 penalties of $10,000 for both franchises is not in line with what's actually even occurred on the record today. So I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to kick off a couple questions. I know you just mentioned there were some delays, but you all imposed, you had a self-imposed deadline of September 1, 2025 to submit the documents. That is something that you all agreed to.
Correct.
Yeah. And you eventually submitted a mixture of documents on December 9th. several months pass, and we want to be understanding of everybody's, a situation. But are you able to elaborate a bit further on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I'll be quite frank about that, right? We did impose a deadline on ourselves that we thought was achievable, and like I said, given the size of our team and trying to pull those documents together with our other obligations, it didn't happen. And I'll say part of the reason too that we prioritized other things is because, in our view, right, we're not abandoning these franchises. I say that in a different sense, right? We're not walking away from them. We're continuing to pay, comply with our obligations. All incentives are on us to provide the proper documentation. We internally, that was our goal. We'd love to have not paid the $180,000 last week. So we wanted to comply. We wanted to get the documents in, given the nature and literally sorting through boxes and out in the Connex box where they've stored documents for however many years, trying to find what we can. That's the reason that it was delayed. So if that answers your question.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell.
Okay. Did you ever notify Ms. Blyther of the need for the delay or need for the extension?
We did. At one point throughout the summer, we communicated. The initial deadline was a month from May 2nd. We were very optimistic. Thought we could provide that documentation in 30 days. So we did communicate the extended deadline in September. So yeah,
But it wasn't produced until December?
What's that?
It wasn't produced, you said a tranche of documents were produced in December?
That tranche was related to the 18138 franchise. That was the.
Well, what franchise are we talking about? Because then I hear you say that, at least in the written public comments that you provided, that there's no abandonment, and then we want to abandon in place. So I'm not understanding which franchise is in question.
Yeah, so I guess for the purposes of this hearing, I think both franchises are in question, but I think it's 180567. I have it in my notes here, but the franchise that has the vast majority of the footage of pipeline, that's the one that we submitted some documentation on December 30th. That one, like I said, since I've been with Warren, there's been no abandonment activities that have taken place. And so that's to answer that question. The other franchise, the 181384, the associated that we call NWU, that particular franchise is the one where some work was performed late last year, late 2024. And so that's, I guess I don't know if that clarifies your question on the franchises at all.
All right. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Vice President Chavez.
This is for Ms. Blyther. The Warren had mentioned this tranche and feedback approach. Is that something that your office is ever comfortable with, or do you need a complete package up front? What's the office's policy on that?
Sure. So we initially had a meeting and we said we'd like these items. And so we had that meeting and then they said, okay, yeah, we can get that in about a month. The items were not received, so we followed up and they said, oh yeah, we'll get that. We'll need more time. Okay. We kept following up and then we stopped getting responses. And that's when we were concerned about what happened. And that's when we issued the notice of noncompliance, when it's like you impose this deadline, you were communicating with us, you stopped communicating with us, you missed your deadline, what's going on? And that was, we I think had our initial notification to them in January, and then we actually had a meeting in, I believe it was in April. No, we had a meeting in May. And so from May to September, that was the time frame when we expected to receive records. At some point after July, they stopped communicating with us, even though we were reaching out to them. And that's when we were concerned. When they missed their deadline, stopped communicating with us.
Okay. And for the, right, I understand that they set their own deadline and missed it. If there is, does Warren have, do you guys have documentation of your attempts to contact OP&G, or did that happen previous to this?
Yeah, we did submit some of those.
You can come up to the mic.
And we do have some of those emails, and some of them were phone calls. And I mean, honestly, and Ms. Blyther was one of the first ones that reached back out to us. You know, we were attempting to contact Mr. Childs and some other emails that we had, and she is one of the first ones to reach back out and connected us with somebody. So yeah, if that answers your question. We do have some of that email documentation.
So do you have a realistic timeline on when you can submit a complete package with documentation?
I guess, I mean, our focus is on this now with the new year. We don't want to pay again in 2027. We, like I said, we just in December, right? And before I submitted those documents on December 30th, there's, an engineering survey was performed documenting all of the lines in that franchise, the big one, 180567, and that particular franchise. I mean, it took me several days just to be able to kind of parse where, tie out the list of footages and diameters that the city is charging us for compared to the engineering report, and then we have to correlate all of those documents to, or all of the lines, I should say, which facility or well they originated at and where they went to. We have to correlate that with the records that we have to show the work that was performed. And like I said, I mean, there's some part of the problem here too is that we I mean, some of these records that for things that took place in 2005 or I guess after Warren took over, were continued to be performed. And I have no knowledge or records of what communication may have happened with the city regarding those abandonments at that time. So it's a long process to answer your question, but we're very motivated to complete it, in plenty of time to come back before the board to gain approval for termination of the franchise prior to the end of 2026.
Okay, so end of 2026 is what I heard. Okay.
Sorry, the long
No,
answer.
I mean, I am familiar with the historical complexity of the Wilmington oil field. I am familiar with that. I remember when Warren purchased this. There's been multiple operators. I understand that, and I do consider that contextually important, especially in this case, given the lack of records available to this. And, unfortunately, we couldn't help with that either. We don't have good records in the city as well. So it needs to be a partnership with the city and the public and the private sector in order to have an important documentation of where these pipelines are. A vast majority of them sit in this community. And it's really important for us now to ensure that once we are aware of them, that they are handled properly, that they're abandoned properly, that they're filled, that they're mitigated in a way so that, because they are traversing residential communities, people live here. So I do think it's really important for us. I don't know how my colleagues feel about this, but I am sensitive to this, and I understand. I think that there's an important message to be given here about the need for the board to balance, maintaining compliance. We need to ensure that people understand that we're having to ensure compliance, but at the same time, I could see also a need to defer or defray at least a portion of the penalty, given the complexity of the situation. I don't know if Warren has a proposal to us.
VP Chavez, I think I share
Yeah.
similar. So I did have a potential proposal to my colleagues here. Thank you for being here. I think we definitely feel your sincerity and the want to course correct and complete this by the end of this calendar year. So the fact that, they came here in good faith and admitted some of your shortcomings and recommitted to addressing those with OPNG and the board. I thought, in similar line with Vice President Chavez, maybe reduce the fine possibly in half to either $20,000 instead of the full amount of 40, taking into account some of the reasonings that came out of this hearing.
I would support that, and I would also potentially see if we can add some kind of, I don't know how we would do this. I would look at city attorney. Would it be possible to hold the other half in abeyance contingent upon completion of the documentation? Is that something that the board can do?
So as I understand the agenda item, this is a potential penalty for past conduct. So it's really not contingent upon future action. So what's before the board is what penalty, if any, you will impose for that past conduct. And then they would still be required to comply with the terms of everything going forward. So if they do not, that could be the basis for additional penalties.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, given that information, is that a motion that you made?
Yeah, then I'll restate. So I'll move to assess a monetary penalty in the amount of $20,000.
I'll second.
So is that 10 per franchise? There's 2 franchises, right?
Yeah, so for the
Only
total,
gone 2.
yeah. So revise the amount from 40 to $20,000.
So 10 on each parcel or franchise?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Knight?
Thank you,
I believe
President
we
King.
can
So
proceed.
just for clarity, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the recommendation will be amended, that is proposed, that is moved and seconded, will be recommendation 1 to assess monetary penalty of $20,000 to Warren Resources of California Incorporated, Warren E&P Incorporated. And then recommendation 2 will also reflect the, instead of $40,000, $20,000.
Correct.
Very well. So we have a first by President Kang, a second by VP Chavez. We'll take a roll call vote, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez?
Aye.
President Proto Brandt?
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell? And Commissioner Cardenas?
Aye.
All ayes, and item 9 is approved as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving forward to our joint report, item number 10, revised TOS number 200 Tetra Tech.
Good afternoon, President Kang, Vice President Chavez, and the commissioners. My name is Chuck Kwan, project manager for the project Western Our Way. I'm here to present the request to revise the task order solicitation for Tetra Tech to provide engineering services for Western Our Way. To provide some histories and timelines for this request, I'd like to present a summary of the timeline. So on June 18, Tetra Tech was awarded the design services for Western Our Way to provide engineering design services. On July 1st, so 2024, the city entered into a financial funding agreement with Metro to provide delivery of a project, Western Slauson, a project that provides design and construction of safety, mobility improvement within half-mile radius of Western Avenue and Slauson Avenue. on April 11, 2025, at the request of the council office, the funding for this project, Western Slauson, was directed for Destination Crenshaw. And due to the loss of the funding, this project has to find alternative resources to complete this project. So since Western Our Way is also include the intersection of Western Slauson, it make a good solution to include this project as part of Western Our Way. We have identified funding from the project of Western Our Way in the amount of $271,671 to provide design services as requested by Tetra Tech for Western Slauson. So by combining these two projects together, we were able to deliver both projects in the same timeline as Western Our Way, and also to provide our city's determination to finish this project on time and fulfill our commitment with Metro to deliver Western Slauson. With this presentation, I'm open to any questions you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments related to item number 10? All right, seeing no other discussion, I know President Pro Tem just stopped, went to the restroom real quick. Commissioner Cardenas.
I'll move.
And then I'll second. Since we have quorum, we'll proceed.
Very well. Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 10, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez. Aye. Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 10 is adopted subject to conditions, and we'll move forward forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving on to items 11, 12, 13, which are contract acceptance related to, well, the first one is sidewalk repair program.
True. Good afternoon, Commissioners, City Attorney, TJ, Executive Officer. So I'm Bill Benson, Chief Construction Inspector with the Bureau of Contract Administration. I'm here to ask your acceptance for Sidewalk Repair Program Package number 21. Okay, so on October 21st, 2016, the Board adopted Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Contract Administration Joint Report Number 1, which established a program authorizing the city to enter into a contract with on-call contractors to perform sidewalk, construction, and repair services for public works. On October 5th, 2022, a contract was entered into by the City of Los Angeles and LA Electrocom, Inc. in the amount of $65,286.82. The contract was executed and its notice to proceed was issued on June 29th, 2022 under contract number C-128490. Work was completed on November 29th, 2022. This project provided for reconstructing the sidewalk to meet Americans with Disabilities Act standards, which included removing and replacing sidewalk, driveway, curb and gutter, and asphalt. The project was awarded for $65,286.82, with a not-to-exceed limit of $99,999. Two deduct change orders reduced the contract amount by $14,063.42, bringing the total cost of the project to $51,223.40. The project was completed at 5% below its awarded amount and 48.78% below the not-to-exceed amount. Final corrections were completed on November 29th, 2022. 4 progress payments were made to the contractor. Funds were provided in Fund 59V, Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Program Special Fund, Department 50, Appropriation Unit 50SKGY. There were no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds are due to the contractor. Okay, there are no unresolved property owner complaints in connection with this project. No specific MBE WBE, SBE, EBE, DVBE, and OBE participation levels were established for this contract as the business inclusion program outreach requirements were waived based on the size of the project to be awarded through these contracts. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments related to this item? Seeing none, I will move. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
And this is for item 11.
11.
Correct. Thank you. President King, we'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 11, starting with you, President King.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 11 is adopted, and we'll move forward forthwith.
Thank you. We'll proceed with number 12.
Okay. This is Los Angeles River bicycle path repairs at Ferraro Athletic Fields. I'm asking you to accept this contract. On February 25th, 2019, the board adopted Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Contract Administration Joint Report Number 2, which established a program authorizing the city to enter into a contract with on-call contractors to perform geotechnical structural construction services for public works projects. On September 13th, 2023, a geotechnical structural construction services contract was awarded on a competitive basis with Jilk Heavy Construction, Inc. in the amount of $930,126. The contract was executed and notice to proceed was issued on November 4th, 2023, under contract number C-133006. Work was completed on March 20th, 2024. The project provided for the repair of 5,800 linear feet of the Los Angeles River bike path adjacent to the north side of the John Ferraro Athletic Fields. This project was awarded for $930,126 with a not to exceed amount of $1,116,151. 5 change orders reduced the contract amount by $61,571.96, bringing the total cost of this project to $868,554.04. The project was completed 6.62% below the awarded amount and 22.18% below the not to exceed amount. Final corrections were completed March 20, 2024. 4 progress payments were made to the contractor. Funds were provided by Measure M, Local Return Fund, Fund Number 59C, Department Number 94, Appropriation Unit Number 94WV64. There were no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds are due to the contractor. There are no unresolved property owner complaints in connection with this report or with this project. No specific MBE or WBE participation levels were established for this contract due to the emergency nature of the work. That concludes the report.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, I will move. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President King. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 12, starting with you, President King.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, item 12 is adopted, and we'll move forward forthwith.
Thank you very much. And number 13.
Okay, final one for me, Crescent Drive, 8744 Crescent Drive Emergency Bulkhead Project. On February 25th, 2019, the board adopted Bureau of Engineering, Bureau of Contract Administration Report Number 2, which established a program authorizing the city to enter into a contract with on-call contractors to perform geotechnical structural construction services for public works. On June 6, 2023, a geotechnical structural construction services contract was awarded on a competitive basis with Mike Perlich and Sons, Inc. In the amount of $452,527. The contract was executed with a notice to proceed issued on July 27, 2023, under contract number C-133000. Work was completed on December 1st, 2023. The project provided for the construction of 72 linear feet of bulkhead and metal guardrail to restore lateral support of the roadway along Crescent Drive. This project, again, was awarded for $452,527 with a not to exceed amount of $499,999. One deduct change order reduced the contract amount by $107,329.07, bringing the total cost of the project to $345,197.93. The project was completed 23% below its 23.72% below its awarded amount and 30.96% percent below the not to exceed amount. Final corrections were completed on December 1st, 2023. 4 progress payments were made to the contractor. Funds were provided by SB1, Road and Maintenance Rehabilitation Fund, 59V, Department 50, Appropriation Unit 50WVIC. There were no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds are due to the contractor. There are no unresolved property owners' complaints in connection with this project, and no specific MBE or WBE participation levels were established for this contract due to its emergency nature. That concludes the report.
Thank you very much. Any questions, commissioners, on item number 13? Seeing none, I will move. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by President Pro Tem Grant and Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 13, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 13 is adopted, and we'll move forward forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving to our final item, number 14, in Council District 11, revised construction budget and construction orders for Tomovich and Associates. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Quintanilla with the Bureau of Engineering, Clean Water Division. This item is for the authorization to revise construction budget and to issue a revised construction order to our on-call emergency storm drain repair contractor, Tomovich and Associates, for $588,000. The work tasked to this contractor was for the emergency work required in the immediate aftermath of the Pacific Palisades fire. Specifically, the contractor was tasked with cleaning and maintaining 2 debris basins located along Palisades Drive. For background and for reference, Palisades Drive is the main roadway that connects the northwesternly most part of the Pacific Palisades to the remainder of the city of LA and the remainder of Pacific Palisades community. Naturally, during normal operation, these debris basins collect miscellaneous debris and stormwater throughout different rain events that the city of LA encounters throughout the year. With the Pacific Palisades fire, that whole hillside now was completely burned and void of that vegetation that naturally holds in the soil and retention for that natural operation of those debris basins. During the first rain event that occurred in late January 2025, that area now, those debris basins became full of vegetation, burnt soil, and other rocks and miscellaneous debris that filled up these debris basins to capacity, and in some instances, had that soil debris deposit onto Pacific Palisades Drive. As mentioned earlier, Pacific Palisades Drive is the main roadway that connects that northwesternly most part of Pacific Palisades. So maintaining access for that road, especially in the immediate aftermath of the fire, was critical for emergency services, military, FEMA, and other essential city agencies. With the emergency storm drain repair program, our on-call contractor, Tomovich and Associates, was mobilized to clean and maintain debris basins 75 and 77. That specific work entailed removing the soil, debris, rocks, and other vegetation from that debris basin, stockpiling it along Pacific Palisades Drive, tarping it, containing it as it was too wet to transport. Once that debris was dried out, then remove it and haul it away to the appropriate landfill. Again, this work was essential and critical to maintain that roadway access along Pacific Palisades Drive, and again for authorization for $588,000. That concludes my presentation and open to any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments? I do have one quick question. I see that there were continuous groundwater flow that was found to be infiltrating into many of the basins. Was that ever corrected, or is that an ongoing issue? Would love to hear more.
That is still an ongoing issue with the unexpected high amounts of rain we received a couple years ago in 2022 and 2023. The groundwater table throughout the city of Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades included, had an elevated groundwater infiltration and elevated table. That table began infiltrating into the debris basins. With the amount of work that we currently are performing right now, because this work is still ongoing, but under a different contract with a different contractor. Once those debris basins are fully clean, we start getting into the dry weather season, which is after April 15th. Then we are looking to remedy the infiltration of that groundwater into the debris basins.
Got it. So that scope is with a different contractor, not Tomovich.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then you're hoping to tackle that once we hit into that dry season, as you mentioned, which is approximately April?
Yeah, so dry wet weather season runs approximately from October 15th through April 15th. That's when the city of LA encounters the most rain events. And so currently, right now, we are within that wet weather season. There's a new contract assigned to a different contractor right now, and they have the same task essentially of clearing out these debris basins subsequently after every rain event that we have, just to maintain the capacity and operation and to try to limit and maintain access onto Pacific Palisades Drive. Once we get past that April 15 date, we are technically now in dry weather season, though there may encounter some rains here and there, but that is more of our golden time to do those permanent repairs to the debris basins.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any other final comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a first and a second?
Second.
First by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by President Pro Tem Grant.
Thank you, President Kang. We'll take a roll call vote on approval of item 14, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, and item 14 is adopted, subject to conditions, and will move forward forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Knight. Does that conclude our voting items for today?
Yes, it does, President Kang.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. Our next meeting will be on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. The meeting is now adjourned at 12:57, and the management meeting has been canceled.